He's an author and a rock star. He's reached highs that most can only dream of. He's also hit lows you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And now he's ready to share that journey and that truth with you on Grind Time with Darren Mccarty. Please welcome your host, number 25, Darren Mccarty.
Yeah. You know what time it is, and you know what? I know it's Tuesday, guys, and regular grind time is until tomorrow night. We're still having that. That's going to be a great show with a bunch of comic friends. But right now on this Tuesday, the day before the first game of the NHL 2019 hockey playoffs, here at Grind Time with Darren Mccarty. In case you forgot, I'm Darren Mccarty, four-time Stanley Cup champion, and at Grind Time, we talk what I want to talk about. So tonight, we're doing a hockey preview show. I couldn't be more excited and ecstatic to have a couple guests in here to join alongside, always with me. Perry, how are you?
Good, Mac.
Perry Vellucci, Tim Krakowski.
What's
How
up,
you
man?
doing over there? But tonight we're going to do some brackets, some playoffs, some roundup, just some straight hockey talk with two of the two guys that I've known a long time in this area and to me are two of the most knowledgeable guys that I like in this sport. Give it up, my guest, the voice of the Red Wings, Kenny Cal.
Scores.
You jackass. I like it. Kalzinski, you jackass. And the host, Michigan Media's morning shows and a WJR, Mr. Sean Baligian. How are you,
What's
my
up,
friend?
Mac? Pleasure to be here. This is great.
Great to be here. Now, first things first. Now, Sean and I always love Sean because he knows my OHL stats like the back of his hand, and he knows OHL hockey, and obviously being over in the Plymouth area, I'm going to have you give us a little update coming into, obviously, big night with the lottery draft. A lot of talk, but I want to hear from the horse's mouth because if anything coming out of that USA program or over there, it's got to you. So I want to hear about this Jack Hughes kid from you. And Ken Kalzinski, which I got to bring everybody to speed with.
That's my real name, by the way.
I'm sorry. I got to call him that because he's a jackass. And every time I see him, and I just realized that it was the first time that we did it was when Happy Gilmore came out. And we were on a media bus tour.
Up
right?
to Alpena and Traverse City. This is before training camp they used to have in Traverse
So
City.
this is like 96 or whatever, and we
97,
were
yeah.
watching it. And if you've ever seen Happy Gilmore, and Shooter McGavin is the villain, and the guy that always tries to help him out, who smashes the bug into the stands, is Kalzinski's older brother. That jackass. So we've had that running joke, and I appreciate you playing along with me with my reindeer games. So first things first to you, Ken.
Jack Hughes, right?
Oh, you want to talk about Jack Hughes first? Well, yeah, we can. Sean, Jack Hughes, give me.
He's all that. I mean, this is a guy that you knew of him from his brother Quinn, who's already with Vancouver. And I don't know if you guys have seen Quinn skate. I mean, they're beautiful skaters. You can tell that they're skating in the family. I mean, that's the first thing that jumps out to you is they're skating. The one question that I would have, I mean, clearly he's number one. The one question I would have is his size. How quickly is he going to bulk up? Because at about 156, 160 pounds, is that ready to jump in the National Hockey League? I know it's a different game now, and I know that smaller guys are doing the job now that they weren't doing the job 20 years ago, Mac, when you were playing. That would be my only question. Is he ready to jump into the league right away? I don't think, this is just my opinion, I don't think this is a draft like last year's draft where there are some game-changing guys in there. I think this is a very good draft, and I think one of the things that I've heard, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, Ken, I'm sure you've heard it, is, well, the Red Wings need to lose for Hughes. They're going to get themselves a darn good player. This top 10 is good. It reminds me of last year in the regard that, they were lucky Zadina fell into their lap. Make no mistake about it. But with that being said, this draft, there's some good players. They're going to be all right.
So, and we're talking about tonight having the lottery pick and wherever everything's projected. What are they projected? Seventh or they can drop to seventh.
They could
They're
drop as low as
seeded
seventh,
to
right.
be picked in fourth, but they could drop down to as worse as seventh. So you're saying, here's my take, and I'll pass to you after this, Kenny. But my whole take was people were saying, oh, they got to lose or they got to take. No. Because you can't get experience with the core guys that you're going to win, and whatever happens will happen. Plus, there's no diamond defenseman at the top that you can supplement. If you don't get a Jack Hughes or a Cooper Carasso or the K guy, the Finnish,
The Finn guy.
Keiko, yeah.
the Kiko, does he have a nickname? What are the radio guys called?
Double K.
Double K. Double A, double K. These guys are these
Coming
radio
from a KK.
guys. I know. Yeah. Double K. But to me, it's because it's not a defenseman. And like you said, it seems like in today's day and age, the game has changed. So his comparison, Jack Hughes, is Johnny Gaudreau, correct?
Yeah.
Now, but with Gaudreau, where was he at? Because he's had to, dude, don't get it twisted. He still takes punishment. He gets whacked and hard. He's a little centerman guy up in Calgary that makes that team go. But you got to be tough to still play in this game. But what do you say, Kenny boy?
You know what? I agree with you, Sean. I hear everything about Jack Hughes, and unfortunately, I haven't really had a chance to see him play. I've seen highlights of him, but this is a league of men, and I know right now it's a younger league. But with that said, you still have to play like a man, and you're 18 years old. You still have time to fill out, and I think a lot of people here in Detroit, if the Red Wings are lucky enough to get a Jack Hughes, they think he could step right in and play. It's a possibility, I guess, but don't be disappointed if he can't because he's not big or strong enough yet.
See, and here's my...
He has the tools,
right?
Obviously.
No doubt.
And my point would be the fact is what you've learned and what with your experiment at Athanasiou at center, with your mixing it up, with the four horsemen, you want to call them, Larkin, Mantha, Athanasiou, and Bertuzzi, right? With what you've earned to see, oh, okay, well, these guys want more responsibility. Maybe it takes you in a different spot because a Jack Hughes with confidence 2 years from now, it's like Joe Veleno, right? Who is their last pick, is killing it in the queue right now. Now the juniors isn't pro, but the confidence that he's gained by going back is something that you might look forward to. My next question, because I'm all positive here on Grind Time, positives out of this year, right? To that people might not see. Like for me, and I've heard you talk about it, Kenny, and I'm going to steal it from you, but the two things for me that I watched, and I knew this, Philip Hronek, right? Hronek, yeah. Hronek?
like Jeremy.
Like, it's just like Jeremy?
Perry's like, ask
a little
this
bit
guy.
of H in there.
Hronek. So Philip Hronek, number 17 defenseman, right? Which I knew this kid was going to be good last year in GR when I went down there at the end of the season. I dressed up and skated with them for a practice and stuff, and he wanted me to show him how to protect himself, and right, which he should never. Well, I told him, first of all, if you're fighting, something's McElrath's in trouble or somebody's in trouble, right? But just the eagerness and the desire to get better and the talent and the skill, because right-handed defenseman, but I think that you really learned, as if I look at that roster from breaking out of training camp or projection, that bang, that might be the biggest one. The other one for me is baby Bert, man. Little Bert, he can not only log those minutes, if you haven't seen the maturity as far as how to not put his team in jeopardy from some of the things that he's done in the past, I'm a big preacher about you can make mistakes, but what have you learned? Not only, I think the question was, and Kenny, you watched it, it's just the way that, how smart he is. And to be able to play and to bring that intangible, but not to hurt the hockey club.
Well, you know what, Mac and Sean, we were talking about strength, right? And that was one of the things that the coaching staff told Bertuzzi to work on in the offseason. Go home, build your strength up, get your stamina up, be stronger, and your game's going to be better. And we saw it this year. I mean, somehow he reminds me of Hank in a lot of ways in the fact that it never looked like Hank was going to get to the puck, but he did. Bertuzzi's the same way. You don't think he's going to get to the corner, he gets to the corner. You don't think he's going to get the puck out, he gets the puck out. That's the kind of guy he is.
You know what I loved about him? I remember seeing him in the OHL, and the thing that I loved about him is obviously the feistiness. He's a money player. Like, go look at his numbers. Don't take my word for it. Go look at his numbers, what happens in crunch time, in playoff time. He did it in the O. He did it in the American Hockey League. This is a money guy. So when the Red Wings, I want a guy like that.
Oh.
That guy, he's not afraid to get his nose dirty. And I guarantee you, as I'm sitting here, that guy's going to score a big goal for the Red Wing come playoff time, sooner rather than later. That's just the type of player he is.
And you can't teach that. It's just, and that's like you said, is that there's guys the puck follows around. When we're talking about, like sky's the limit. I mean, I don't know, but when you put Anthony Ciu up the middle, and when you can insulate him, see, this is the thing, is they say that, but you insulate him with the Glendening. Well, did you not understand that, like, a lot of our teams, and when I go to the 90s and 2000s teams, when we played a left-wing lock system, there really wasn't the responsibilities. Like, Anthony Ciu could start up at center, and when he gets in defensive zone, cover the point and have Glendening down low. It's not like the way that the game has evolved. It's more of hybrid players, like that can skate. That's not the biggest difference in the game now, right, is speed. I don't think they're smarter. In fact, I think they're dumber. No, I mean, they don't think because they're not allowed to think the game. They're allowed to go up and down. And when you see some creativity and you see some guys, like you said, like we saw in our team, then it gives you
set plays. There are so many set plays, and
I never, dude. That's ridiculous.
Reward creativity.
No. Like
you
tell me
play?
a set play, and it's like, well, yeah, set play is. I know if Drapes knows that if he goes into the right corner and curls out with it, I'm popping out for a one-timer. That's a set play, right? But it's going to be open 3 times in the whole year, okay? It's going to pay off, and I'll probably miss the net twice. Right?
You know what's amazing, though, and I see this not only from the Red Wings, but I see it around the entire National Hockey League, is when an offensive player, will take the puck into the zone, they make blind passes. Like, that never happened back in the day. You protected the puck. You protected it. You took a hit. You never threw it. It was rare that any player would throw it blindly to the point. Guy's not there. But the whole league does it all the time now. The other thing they do is they ice the puck all the time they're in trouble. And I don't know if that's because there's no red line anymore or what, but it just seems like back in the day, you waited to get to the blue line, throw it out. Now it's just zing, down the ice, and there's 10 icing calls.
Well, back in the day, listen, that's with the way the rules or the game is, but like as a winger, the way I play, icing was a tool to get a change because we could change it. Today you can't. Yep. Over the glass, getting a whistle, stuff like these different little tricks, like at the end, if the puck came down the right side and you're getting pinched on, you got nowhere to do with it, you throw in the crowd. Like different things that it doesn't, because...
But why would they ice the puck now when they know they can't change, especially with under 2 minutes to go?
What did I just say? Revert back, and I said they're faster but dumber. I don't get it.
Play the replay there.
Ask the coaching. I don't know. Hey, wait. Let's go to our
official.
We can go to our grind time official, Perry Vellucci. What do you have to say on this one?
Well, I hate the rules. But so 2 weeks ago, we watched the 22nd anniversary of the fight night, Claude Lehou. And as we were watching the game, we were like, wow, it's a little slower. It looks a little slower, but the difference is it was controlled hockey. Now, literally, when I ref the midget majors and the minors, the Caesars and all, and I see these kids, because I used to ref Larkin 6-7 years ago. It's...
Yeah, you were waiting. Mac was waiting for him to pull Larkin
name
out.
drop.
So I told him, the game has become balls to the walls without a cause. They're just flying around out there, the younger kids, and it's not until they get to the NHL or the AHL where they're starting to get a little bit understanding of how to play the game, how to play it structured. But as like Mac said, I don't think too many of them are smart enough.
What do you notice, Sean? Because it's still at the junior level or at the U.S., the under 18 or whatever like that, because you've seen the development, like compared to, so when I came up in the late 80s, early 90s, 20 years later.
The biggest thing that I noticed, like all the years that I worked in the OHL, and I know you're fond of that league as well, and you had a tremendous career in Belleville.
Hi, Dave Branch.
I got it. You can hit the bell if you want.
Hi, Dave Branch. I did. Did I lead the league in goals my last year? Did I win OHL Player of the Year?
I was going to say Player of the Year.
1992, Jim Mahon, the highest scoring right winger. What?
Was it 55?
Yo! How many Malta? 50. Malta only had 50.
I'm waiting for that thing to go 50 times here.
I mean, not only do you see the point totals go incredibly down, just the lack of creativity. it's sad to watch because that, to me, I've said this, no disrespect to you, Ken, or anybody else. I love the National Hockey League. To me, the OHL was just something different because the kids, they were so hungry.
Playing for something.
Yeah, that made that league so fun to me. And, obviously you still get a chance to see it around here in Flint and Sarnia and Saginaw. Ozzy's having a great time up there with that team. But the lack of creativity to me, with the NTDP, it's something different. Those kids work so hard because you have to remember, there are 16 and 17-year-old kids going up against 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
That's a big difference.
And that is such a big difference. And in particular...
That's a second... people don't understand. That's second biggest thing to the most stupidest thing I ever heard, which is the minor hockey not hitting till Bantam when kids are hitting their puberty and you got one that's 6'5" and you got one that's 4'11", then they go hit, instead of teaching them when they're younger. That's the stupidest thing. But this other thing's not stupid, but you got to understand 16, 17, as we're talking about Jack Hughes, developing into 8, 19, 20, those are men. You're starting to be a man. It's you form physically. So
that's what's strange about this team. I mean, this team is going to get so many guys, forget the first round, probably top 10 guys. And the difference about this team is when they came in, usually those kids get their heads kicked in. Honestly, the U17s, this team didn't. They were going out and beating teams. And so that's what I'm going to be intrigued at because I don't want to say it's been easy for them. It's never easy. You know that better than anybody. But that's what's different about this group is they haven't had perhaps some of the struggles that some of the other teams had. So I think that's what makes this group and part of the reason why they have so many first-rounders so intriguing this year.
Is that because they're more talented or more prepared or better coached?
This team was loaded.
Because here's the thing, and I'm going to be the first to admit, the talent across the board in hockey right now, from pros to is exceptional. Because why? Because it's kids do it longer, get taught better, growing up and stuff like that, different things like that. But then you say that, but the individualist or the game has left. Where's the balance? Because Ken, you must see the difference between the teams we're going to talk about moving to the Stanley Cup playoffs, the top teams, and the Red Wings are the teams that are just out of the playoffs. What's the biggest difference that you've seen in the last few years from dealing with Red Wing teams that made the playoffs and had chances to the way the league is?
I think when you played Darren and Koser and Probert and everybody else, I mean, players are more accountable back then, and they're not today. And the thing is, they can get away with stuff and no one's going to retaliate. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's not really a lot of police work, I think. And what really amazes me, too, the other night there was, I'm trying to think who got checked along the boards. It was Witkowski. He put a hit on Nordstrom.
Oh, I saw that.
And then the other guy, Achari, comes in there and wants to fight him right away. Well, back in the day, you guys had long memories. You didn't have to fight him right then. You could take a number, let's say, and then maybe, next year or you retaliate that way, I mean, but now it just seems like there's retaliation after and that was a good body check by Witkowski.
I just don't know how to, because, there's a difference. I did.
I mean, I don't know. I never played. You did. You
would know
more,
you're right, because there's that accountability. I always say it now. You know what? Who you're accountable to is your wife or your old lady and your paycheck. Because that's where you're going to get yelled at when you go home because you got docked $25,000 for doing something stupid on the ice. Not because you had to fight somebody, but, and a lot of times, the way it used to be, your guy gets hit with a clean one, you're going to go up, there's going to be a talk. We're going to have to fight. That was a clean hit, bro. He did do it, but we're going to fight, and you're going to work it out. Where there is, it comes down to what I always say, is because guys in our day had respect for each other. We want to beat our other brains in, and there's only one guy I ever wanted just to really kill, and we all know that. We did a show on a couple weeks ago, anniversary special, March 26th. But
no, I was going to say I talked to Kelly Chase, and you know Kelly, and when he was playing with the Blues, I asked him one time. I said, "Do you ever get want to go after like an Yzerman for something he did, or maybe he got away with a slash or something like that?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I wanted to go after him." He goes, "But," he says, "I wasn't really afraid of the 10-minute misconduct." He said, I was afraid of coming out. I'd have to fight Koser, and then I'd go into the box and I have to fight Probert." Yeah. He goes, "I don't want to do that."
You know what's funny? We were talking about Proby's book before the show started, and you just brought this. Proby, the one guy he couldn't stand, and if you guys read the book, it was Kevin McGuire from the Buffalo Sabres.
Because of what he did for Stevie.
It's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
He went after Stevie, like 88 or whatever. And like if you go on YouTube, you can watch Bob go berserk. He
slides on his knees and tags him.
Yes, he does.
And it's he never let it go either. Like I talked to him about it, and you can read it in the book. I mean,
I'll tell you that because this is guys like, and I'm the same way, built the same way. And you say, Joe, you know what? You can do stuff to us, right? That we'll decide whether we're going to deal with it or how we're going to deal with it. Maybe we'll brush that off and let you that cheap shot. But you do somebody to my guy, I'll rip your living face. I mean, Google me, but I mean, I'll kill you. Like if you go after one of my teammates, like anyway.
McGuire ran Steph. He ran Greg Steph in there.
Steph. There's a hothead. I love him.
But the fact that, and this is done, that McGuire as their tough guy squares off with Stevie, and then Proby's trying to look at who's 8. 8's got Proby's leg. There's a guy hanging on like a dog. Seriously,
was that Dennis Sears?
Yeah, Sears.
Hey, did you see Proby's going, what are you doing? And he popped him a couple times in the face. Let go of me, bro. Yeah. Let go of me.
The funniest thing, Mac, I remember watching this and going, Yzerman's dropping with McGuire. And I mean, that was the craziest thing about it.
Yeah. Right. Like, I think you might even hear Mick, but
they're not being hit enough and fought enough and everything else, and they are tonight. And this will get something, gives Detroit something to think about.
Look at Steph.
Look at Steph.
Is he angry? You know, he has good reason. I mean, McGuire really nailed him.
Now he's trying to get out of McGuire.
Well, he's not going to get at him. You see Kevin McGuire, he's just standing back looking. Here he comes. Right guy, suckered him.
There we go.
Nailed him right there.
He just went around the ref, didn't he?
Proby, yeah, look at him.
Now Housley has to get a hold of that goaltender. Somebody has a hold of Housley. It's hard to tell right now.
Oh, we miss those days,
Oh,
huh?
my goodness.
Well, that ref's got some judo. He's keeping
Still backing up.
well,
number 24 away. That's nothing to.
no, that's not easy.
And they're going to tee off now.
No.
Housley starting to swing a little.
I think it ends up in the corner.
I thought it ended up out front of Buffalo's bench,
Watch this,
didn't it?
right over here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it ends in the.
Yeah, it goes into the corner.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, right down in there.
Oh, does Bob go crazy?
Yeah.
Once he gets
Because
to
he
the
goes,
box.
because Stevie, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
But here's the thing, right? Like, I mean, if this happened in today's game, the National Guard would have been called in.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody would be suspended. There'd be nobody left on the bench.
No.
You become, hey, is it in the rules that if so to speak, that if everybody on the bench,
There we go.
Yeah, this is when Stevie, yeah.
Oh, McGuire really
He starts
threw a
teeing off on
haymaker
Yzerman. Look at that.
on that first punch.
Now, why did Stevie charge? What happened there? What did we miss?
McGuire's
Off
2-on-1.
Oh, okay.
2-on-1.
He just drove him to the ice.
Look at
And
Bob.
there's Proby.
He waits. Look at
yeah, look at these, eyed him up, pull him up, get him, Bob.
Yep, get
He's
him.
going to circle.
Look at him.
Yeah, look at.
Oh,
look,
you want some?
I will
With the
get
mask
off
on,
my
Baroni.
face.
Tommy
Get out of
Yeah.
my face.
Let's go get
You
away.
want this?
Who else is on? Somebody
Watch him
else?
sneak in.
Is
Look
that
at this.
Gallant? That could be Spuddy going nuts too.
Yeah, I think it was
You can
Gerard.
see Yzerman, he's still trying to get some little rabbit punches in.
Probert's like a predator.
Oh, that's
Gallant, right?
Oh, he's tough as hell.
wish you a Merry Christmas.
Look at Housley. Housley's
Proby.
going.
What does he do?
Housley's
Here it
going.
comes.
Hey,
Here
Gerard,
it
I'll
comes.
grab you so you don't have to fight anymore.
He'll just look around for the open man. And he just found
Look at number
another one.
24, still trying.
Oh,
to...
just watch Timmy,
Oh, he's
what he
not
does.
done yet.
Watch what he
Now
does.
he's free. Look out.
Look at there you go.
Oh, that was a good one. See ya.
Half a minute ago, Prober would just look around and finally be able to throw a right into McGuire. He had him right down on the ice. And that you're looking at.
Didn't
the
McGuire,
all-time
wasn't he a referee? after?
Yeah.
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 one of the greatest sucker punches I have ever seen.
See, okay, guys, now,
Oh, here we go.
that was not like I
was a
do.
tactical
I tell
sucker
everybody the difference between a sucker punch and a cold cock, right? Which, by the way, I put it on the Grind Time locker room. Is there was an interview done with me after that fight like 20 some years ago, and there's a camera angle there that you see how hard I hit Lemieux, right? When you look at somebody, that's Kolchak. Proby, I don't think he wasn't looking, but that was a great slide sucker. And when you deserve that, if you touch Stevie, what do you expect?
I like the terminology, a great slide sucker.
Yeah, man.
How would you have? I mean, you're the person that for a living and has done it so
Snuck in
graciously
there.
for us, has put pictures into the words. How would you have described what he did there?
Oh, hell is breaking loose on the ice, and Probert slides in and hits him with an uppercut. I guess I don't know.
I'd
On
get in
one
trouble.
knee, I don't know.
I'd call it justice. I'd get in trouble. I'd say something like that because I mean that's justice. I
Yeah.
don't care.
No, I agree.
You know what
Thank
Kevin
you.
McGuire is. You know what Steve Yzerman is.
And-
you don't wrestle with him. Do whatever you want. Stevie's a strong guy. He can hold himself. But when you take a
No,
swing,
when you
that's
start
over.
throwing puck,
that's over.
right? Which if for people listening who can't see, it's Kevin McGuire, Bob Probert back at probably 88. But the problem, and Sean, you nailed it, is the respect. Now, it happens sometime where you get paired off in a situation like that with a guy who's not a fighter or whatever, and it's like, behave, okay? And then you start talking, right? You're not going to, as long as everything's copacetic, guys are paired off properly, which means that guys aren't out of their classes, right? So it doesn't matter if your guy might lose the fight. It's if it's like, if it's like Push and Severn fighting, that's fine. Push can handle himself,
Right.
It's
equal.
It's different. As long as it's like that, then you're not. But the minute it's switched off, you're going to, I don't care if you're a goalie, whatever you are, it's either let go or you're going to hammer him and go wherever it was because the injustice is gone. And I think that what we learned here tonight on Grind Time is that that's the difference between the game that we grew up, where I played and back in the day, to now, is that justice, sort of like in life, has
It's changed.
it's just tilted or whatever. It's just the norm is different. Would you say is that
Totally. Your brother, there's a perfect example. Perry's brother, Mike Vellucci.
who is Mike Vellucci, who is the coach for the
Charlotte
Charlotte
Checkers.
Checkers.
of the AHL? They finished first place
Yeah,
overall?
running away,
best record,
first overall. But he played for the Hartford Whalers. I don't know if you guys remember. He played for the Hartford Whalers. And they had, back in the day when things like that used to happen, they had a Donnybrook with Quebec. Who's he paired up with? Michel Goulet. You're not going to... So he goes, here I am, I'm excited, I'm in the National Hockey League, and Michel Goulet's looking at me going, don't do it, kid, don't do it. And he goes, I'm not going to take a punch at Michel Goulet, and
can't.
that's exactly what you're talking
Because
about.
of
man.
there's that respect back in the day. It was whatever else and it goes to treat me the way you want to be treated, right? I'm not gonna and this is regular season we're talking about, because when playoffs comes around, everything is out the window because it's win or lose. And why I say that is because...
But nobody fights in the playoffs. Rarely, right?
Well, they will, but it's what I'm saying is how hard guys play, because I've never seen Wayne Gretzky get abused more by 18 and 33 than in 96 against St. Louis. Like, You'll play those guys hard, not fight them, but like dirtier. I guess make it harder on them in the playoffs, where you're not going to go out there and jump somebody or whatever, but you're going to keep it copacetic, but you're going to finish your check. I remember Paul Coffey wouldn't talk to me for like 10 years after I laid him out, knocked him out of the series in Philly, after game 2 or whatever. But sorry, bro. Like guys are like that, but the playoffs. But that's sort of one of the differences. What about what give us a nugget, Kenny, about what people should be excited or look forward to for this Red Wing team?
Well, I think they're in the right direction, heading in the right direction. And what I really like about this team, Darren and Sean, is that all the guys that are expected to lead this team in the future are really getting it at the same time. And I think what we've seen before is we'd have Mantha have a good game, and then he'd go 4 or 5 games, and he wouldn't do anything. And then you had Bertuzzi, same thing. Larkin was good all season long for the most part. But now, towards the end of the season, you had 4 or 5 guys like gel together at the same time. So that's the hope that I see, that these guys will do it on a more consistent basis. And we've seen it. So that's proof that they can get it done.
You know what I say too? And I tell everybody, you know what the greatest thing is? How these 22, 24, 25, right. So they're where we were in like 94, 95. And what I mean by that is their core guys, these guys you're talking about, right, aren't married yet, don't have the kids, don't have. So this summer, it wouldn't be surprised me if they don't go away on a trip or golf and work out together and build what they started. And, you know, when I said earlier to you guys, when I walked in the dressing room, you know, about a month or so ago and was like, holy, let me take the temperature of the room here because, wow, this feels like old school because it felt like guys were excited to be there. We're happy to play with each other. And that's the greatness that you mentioned. Not only that, Kenny, about getting it on the ice together, getting it as pros and what it means to be Detroit Red Wings, because we all know being around here, the game's the easy part. You know, I mean, it's the way you lead, and I think that's what I, for myself, as an alumnus and watching these guys, I couldn't be more proud of who they are as people, too.
You know, I think of the Edmonton Oilers and the great teams that they had before all them got married. They did everything together. And you know what? That's kind of the secret to them bonding together and making teams great is because you've got a group of guys that are around the same age, and they do things together, off the ice, on the ice, in the locker room. They hang together, and that makes you really close. And when things happen on the ice, and we just talked about somebody disses somebody wrong, guess what? Who's going to go to bat for them? It's the guys that you're closest to. So I like that. The other thing I'd like to see, guys, is I still think the Red Wings need some scoring, and I'd like to see some balanced scoring. And you can't always count on Bertuzzi and Mantha and Larkin to score all the goals for you. You got to have second, third, fourth lines that can contribute on occasion. So when those guys aren't going, the other guys are, and you've got some balance now.
Well, I think that's probably going to segue after Sean gives me his answer about that into these playoffs, why some of these teams are so good and what you've seen throughout the league, what you need. Because the greatest gift is you go and you see who do you want to be like, whether it's team, whether it's player, what are they doing to get there? And at least in the right direction. What about you from what you
know
see?
what? I think sometimes when we talk about this, we focus on the young guys, as we should, okay? I thought, and Ken, you tell me if you agree or disagree, I thought Dylan Larkin went like this year. I really did. And, you know, we can have the debate. Is he elite? I don't care. He's a darn good player. I'll go to war with a guy like that. I'll go to war with a guy like that. And I thought there was a maturity. Now, you know, the way he conducted himself, I think both on and off the ice. I think, you know, again, so much is said about the C, and maybe next year he gets a C. I know Coach Blashill said that's something that they'll talk about, but I really liked his game. He has turned into a lead by example. And Ken, you know, today you have to play 200 feet. You have to play 200 feet. The guys that decide that they want to play 170 feet are not going to get the ice time. I thought Dylan led by example. I really like Dylan. You know, there's still work to be done. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, I think one thing, if there is a goalie of the future in the system, he hasn't presented himself yet. That doesn't mean that there isn't one. You know, but right now, hey, I don't think enough said about Jimmy Howard either. I thought Jimmy was really good this year.
I'll tell you this. I don't know how many games that and I've known Jimmy for his whole career, from even my end of my career being in the minors, and his mental toughness and the way that he's really worked on his game and honed his craft. I don't know how many times early in the year you could see him make 4 saves and then, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make the 5th in a row. You know what I mean? Like, he's had a couple of bad games. Everybody has bad games, but consistently he gives them an opportunity to win. He just has, if you look at the games, if they're going to throw an egg or a 1 goal, usually he's in net, not Bernier. Like, so to me, save percentage is a huge thing, right? And his is over 920, and that is elite. So, and back to your point about Larkin, you're right. It doesn't matter that he's elite. You see eliteness in Edmonton and draft choice up top, 100 points, not make playoffs. But what you do find, and I think that you see, is that he goes out and he leads by example, a la what Stevie did, and these guys follow him, right? There's no question to me that he's the one that's saying, come on, guys, but he also knows he's his worst critic, and he's got to allow these guys to come with them. So that's why it's exciting.
The other thing I like about him too, Darren and Sean, is that he's going against the other team's best players.
Yep.
He's going in for faceoffs against Bergeron. He's going in
He
for
reminds
faceoffs
me
against Taves.
of a more, like, to say poor man's, it would just, but Bergeron, he could play 200 feet. He's the left-handed shot. He's reliable. I don't know how many shifts I watched him take when they have the shift counter on that's over a minute 20, and he doesn't look like get off the ice, but he's not being irresponsible getting caught out there. So what I'm saying, like, those are the guys, the 200-foot guys, the guys that can give you 30 goals. You're talking about that is elite to me, isn't it?
Nobody expected Dylan, I think, to score 30 goals. I mean, they thought he'd be a really good player, but you know what? That's something that he said. He set in his mind going into the season, hey, I can score 30. He did. Sorry to cut you off there, Perry.
No, that's right. Well, we watched the game the other night, the final game, and at the end of the game, they interviewed Dylan, and he stood up in front of all the reporters talking about the end of the year. And Mac said he noticed that everything that Dylan talked about, he goes, look at it's coming, it's true. It's coming from the heart, it's coming from the head. It's not just cliches or sayings that he's putting out there. He's feeling this, he believes this. And like he said, it sucks. Next year we're not going to be in that spot. And I think that was the biggest thing Darren was mentioning to me, is that he believes it, he's going to be the leader, and these guys are going to follow. And it's going to be a different year next year.
How about Grand Rapids? We got, they've been obviously Zadina getting his 10 game to get 10 in.
He got 9 here.
9 in because and I always look at, especially now, for the guys to go back into the playoffs and to continue to play. How many guys got sent back? Or
I think there were 9 from the last game against Buffalo.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, and here's the thing too. People talk about tanking. You got 9 regulars out of the lineup, right? You got guys in the lineup that you've found for the last few weeks that realize, hey, you know what? I deserve to be here, not just like, oh, I'm getting a chance and going out and playing solid and proving to themselves.
And they beat good teams.
Yeah.
They beat good teams with good players, and I don't when that puck drops, it's like anything else, right? It's game on. You can't. It doesn't matter. You don't go telling yourself, "Oh, it's game 82. I'm not gonna." Puck drops. It's like goal.
I thought it was more important that they did with what they had than what they could possibly do with what they don't have. Honestly, I mean,
that was so well put. I'm gonna have to break that down for Perry later. I'm gonna have to use crayons and coloring books. But Sean, that was so well said, and because it sets you up for where you're going, and because, guys you didn't have a clue on, you at least know, good, bad, or indifferent, where you're at. And I think that going into last year, going into the summertime, I was probably a nice solid 3.5 out of 10. Just, this is going to be awesome summer. Great. This year, man, I'm back. I'm up to I'm at a nice 8. Like a nice 8 I'm excited to see what happens tonight, what happens in the lottery draft, what happens in the draft, what happens moving forward, but they pique my interest. And it'll be exciting to get on the golf course with these guys this summer to see where their heads are at. Because this is a brand new experience for them too. And I think what's the most important part, and I'm speaking on behalf of my brethren, the guys you see up here and the guy, is that we want to help any way it's possible to facilitate making their success to help them out. If it's a mindset, if it's anything else, that's, to watch this now, it's, I circumvented it must have been like sort of like Camelot, when you have, because Larkin is, if I'm the favorite stepson, he's like King Arthur, right? Coming out of Waterford, knowing the history, been bred to do this. This is all he's wanted to do as a kid. Enhance it. Pull that sword out of there. Lead your troops, and we'll support you. And it's exciting. I don't know. I'm excited, even though we're not the most excited I've ever been for not being in the playoffs.
Their point total was just 1 better than the year ago, but this year just didn't seem like, even though they lost some tough games, it seemed like they played better. I don't know.
You tell us, Kenny, because you broadcast every game, but it was like, what was different from you, if you could break it?
Yeah, we went through a stretch in November where the team was playing pretty good, and then Green went out, and then DeKaiser went out, and then they kind of went south a little bit. But even when they went south, they played hard. And, I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff because one of the toughest things to do is when you don't have anything really to play for other than your job, I guess, is to get them pumped up and fired up and played. And you know what? You look at the last 12 games, they won 8 of them. And they beat good teams. It's not like they laid down and died and that was it. They beat San Jose. They beat Vegas. They beat, playoff teams, So I give the coaching staff a lot of credit for making them what they were and going out and competing hard. And I give a lot of guys like Jake Chelios and McElrath who got a shot at the end. Hirose looks like he could be a pretty good player down the road. You're right, Darren. They gave these guys an opportunity and they made the best of it, and that's all you can ask for.
Ken, you bring up such a good point because I'm sure you'll remember this, but they had those back-to-back games, those stinkers early in the year in Boston and in Montreal where they were absolutely destroyed. I mean, didn't look like they belong on the ice. And for them to bounce back from that, I think that says a lot, because you're talking about a young kid's, oh my goodness, it's still October, this is going to be the longest year. For them to bounce back by the way that they did, I think that's a testament to the coaching staff. No hanging the head, come on boys, this is going to be different, because those were stinkers. I mean, there's no other way to say that. And I think I can speak for a lot of people out there. What was it, 08-2, whatever the heck it was? We were like, this is going to be 85-86 wings bad. That's kind of the measuring stick for all of us guys. The year that Stevie went down with an injury, but you know what? They got it back, and kudos to them. I think that coaching staff deserves credit.
Absolutely.
I think the thing too is that when you're talking about that, the most frustrating part of the year is when they get 2-3 goal leads in Toronto, whatever, and then it would seem like for games they'd just give up 3-4 goal leads and just. But I look back at that as you got to learn to believe that you deserve to be there. It was almost like they looked around and went, wait, we shouldn't be winning this. This isn't right. But that's part of
the learning curve.
Learning curve. So as long as we saw the learning curve. Speaking of that, Tampa Bay officially finished at 62-16-4 for 128 points, which technically ties the Detroit Red Wings 95-96 season of 62 wins. I was part of that team. I don't know if you want that record because I don't know if people know this. We did not win the cup that year. So this is sort of a jinx. But if you want to go to regulation or overtime wins, they only had 56. We didn't play overtime. And just like I said, he should have been called Google because he got ripped off at just being the professor, because back in the day, if Igor said it and somebody said, where'd you hear that? You said Igor Larionov. Well, it was true. Well, he said that they don't tie us. We still got the record. So,
and you guys had 131 points that year.
Yeah, Kenny, give it to him. 131.
You know what, Mac? That was the best team. That was my first year in the league. And I remember we were in St. Louis. I come in. I remember one time we were in St. Louis, right? And I'm having a ginger ale with Dave Lewis, right, in St. Louis.
There's suds in that ginger ale, kids.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm in there, and we got like 50-some wins now, right? 56, 57 wins. We're heading for that record, right? And I remember talking to Dave Lewis. I go, wow, this is great. He goes, listen. He goes, enjoy it. He says, this will never happen again. He goes, this is normal. You know what I mean? He goes, we have a really good team. He goes, but very few teams hit the 60 plateau, right? The win plateau. And, he was right. But to me, out of all the teams that won the Stanley Cup, I know 2002 was really good. That was a very good team in 95-96. I mean, I didn't think anyone was going to beat you guys.
And look at the Hall of Famers that were on that team that were traded away right after that with Koff and Dino. And, I mean, they made that team got shaken up. And then
it was, as good as, you lose in 95, then 96, 97. I was fortunate to be on a lot of great teams. But like you said,
you could have won more Stanley Cups. I mean,
we played in 6, lost 2, but that's where listen, guys, I'm happy with the 4 I got.
And in case more than I have.
In case you're wondering, they're all over there. Right there.
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. I want to ask Sean this too, and you too, Mac. I mean, I know teams that do well in the regular season sometimes don't do well if they win the President's Trophy, and a lot of times those teams don't win the Stanley Cup. The only issue I have today right now is, I don't see any weaknesses in Tampa Bay. I mean, I've seen games where they look bad in the first period and they're down 2-0. They come back and they win 6-3 or something.
You're a sick seguer into our picks right there, because that is the first game we're going to tackle, and I see that starting tomorrow. We got Tampa Bay and Columbus. That is the 1 seed and the 8 seed in the East. Now, Kenny, great point. You've seen that team to me up and down is the closest thing that I've seen to us back in the day. Because what do you need to win in the playoffs? Let's break it down, because we're going to be going through these 16 teams and picking. But goaltending, boom, Vasilevsky, right? One of the best in the league, right? Got to stay healthy. Well, not only have they stayed healthy with their top guys, now you can't predict that moving forward, but they're pretty well insulated at some depth. And not only do they have veteran defensemen with Victor Hedman, arguably one of the best. You got Nikita Kucherov up the middle. Point. What do they got? How many did they have? Didn't they have 3 40-goal scorers or something?
They had 2 40-goal scorers, 3 40-goal scorers.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is, like, their fourth line even had, like, combined 37 or 40 goals.
That's what made us so dangerous, is that they roll 4 lines. If you watch them play, like, how many goals does Stamkos have? Because it's the quietest 45.
45, yeah.
Quietest 45 goals. And the kid's a sniper, so he's coming out of Sarnia. I mean, but, with Kucherov and everything like that, I think that last year I got it right. Because I said if Washington, after they lost the first 2, this could be Wings a la 2002. And it was, but...
That Julien Brisebois sure has done a good job putting that team together down in Tampa, hasn't he?
Is that what it is, right? Yeah. No, that guy's good. But how about...
Let me ask you this, just real quick, though. Like, we talk about Tampa Bay being good, and, Mac, you played this game. Playoffs change. Like, I've always said this, too. You could have the best power play through 82 games, and then you go into game 1 and 2, you could be 0 for 12 with a man advantage. It changes. So do you guys see anything from Tampa Bay where Columbus could beat them in that first round?
I want to ask you this. I'm going to answer, but I want to look at Mac. Do you believe in monkey on the back stuff? Because this is a team that has had really good teams in the last 5 years and have only made that one trip to the finals. And they've been the favorite a few times. So in the back of their head, they know, okay, now this is next level stuff. This is all-time stuff. Do you buy that stuff that maybe they know in the back of their head, well, maybe we should have one already, and now there's every bit of pressure on. I think you're just trying to be different if you pick against Tampa. I really do. I think you're making an effort to be different because they are that, to me, prohibitive a favorite. Mac, do you buy that pressure? Is that pressure real?
I buy the fact that the spot shadow, the light, especially right off the bat's on Kucherov, because last year he was invisible, right? So there's the spotlight's going to be on. Now, let's go back to what we said. That's fine. Shut him down. You got 3 other lines that are coming. I don't see in a 7-game series, and watching the way Columbus got into it, and I love Bobrovsky, but they got maybe 2 lines. I don't think that they can stay with them, because now we're talking playoffs. You're talking every other night. So healthy home schedule, right? Where travel in this game really doesn't matter. To me, I got Tampa in 5.
What about Columbus? How do they feel going into this, knowing
they got nothing to lose?
Exactly.
They got no. So that's the great. But
no.
It's San Jose in '93.
Well, let me go back.
That's exactly what it is. It's the same thing as '93 when we lost to San Jose after being the best team. That's what you have. Or Detroit losing to Edmonton. Like, it can happen, but I don't see it.
All right, I'm going to go back to 95-96. 62 wins, 131 points. First round matchup, Hobby Bullen and Winnipeg. Whoa. They took you to 6 games. Wait. It was a tough series, though. It was a tough series.
No, it was a great series. I'm not saying playoffs, like, it's all one goal. Like, how many overtime? Like, that's the thing. You got to stay healthy, great goaltending, and then you got to get puck luck. You got to get that bounce. You got to get that break. You're going to see. I was disappointed last year because there wasn't enough overtime games.
I agree.
No, I mean, I was bummed, dude. I mean, come on. First round of the playoffs, hockey every night, 4 games. and you're not giving me at least 2 overtime games?
That's in today's NHL.
Because that's where it can switch. Because you go to overtimes, okay, and throw it all out. You can say, okay, they got a vet. No, because how many times you've seen that one shot, that one whatever, bounce in, hit something. We've all watched enough hockey to know that in a sudden death.
Remember last year we were talking during the playoffs. Washington was down 0-2, and you said they're going to need. He's flashing back to the
Perry's having a moment here. I already mentioned this. I mentioned, like I said last
with the
year,
goal.
No, but down 2-0 because I said it to you. Right, and I said, you watch. If they win tonight, this could be a revision back to whatever. So overtime sort of switches it. You would say, you're not going to go. Obviously, I'm going to say Tampa and Columbus. Who are you taking in overtime? Well, Tampa, right? But it's goaltending.
What about Lidstrom? His bouncing goal from center ice against Vancouver, right?
Oh,
that
no,
changed the
too.
series
It
around,
sure
right?
did.
But Kenny, that's my point. Right, down 0-2, he drop kicks that. I mean, he's just sick. He's got all the shots. I mean, he is the Norris.
He planned it, by the way.
Of course he did. But that's what I mean. The bounce, the whatever. Now, we could be sitting here and one momentum thing can handle it. Now, to your point, Sean, if things don't go smooth and they face adversity, does that creep in the back of their mind? I don't know. They have not proven they can. Now, if you tell me, if we skip down to Washington, yeah, dude, adversity central. Last year. Before last year, if we were doing this preview show before the playoffs last year, I'm like, no, Washington can't handle any adversity. Now you're like, right? So I don't know about you. I got Tampa in the first series in 5. You guys, anybody else? Anybody have Columbus? Got it in 5?
Yeah.
I want to say 4 really badly, but I'm not going to. Here's the difference between, again, we probably sound like a bunch of old dudes, but back in the day, so many of those first rounds were just over like that. In this era of cost certainty, how many times have we seen a series like this go 6 or 7 games?
Well, that's the parity. That is Batman hockey, the parity down to the last game, where it's going to be close. And the whole thing is home ice doesn't mean as much as it used to. Mm-hmm. Everybody's used to play. Every rink's the same, pretty much. It's not that much. You look like you're over there going Columbus is 7.
No. Here's what I'm thinking, Mac. I'm thinking Columbus. They've never won a playoff series in their history. I don't think they've won a playoff game.
Well, so you're thinking that this is the perfect one to start.
No. So I'm saying that. You know what? The only way that they can steal a couple of games of Bobrovsky is unbelievable. But I just don't think they have the firepower. They've played well, and they're on a little bit of a run going into the playoffs. I like teams that are like that because they're freewheeling and there's nothing to lose. But can they win the series? I don't think so.
That Edmonton team that knocked you guys off in 06.
I wasn't there. I was in Calgary.
Yeah, you were in Calgary by then. But that Edmonton team is a team, to your point, they had been playing playoffs for a month. And they had everything going. Fernando Pisani scoring goals left and right. Those are the types of things that you need to get going. And think about this, especially as active as Columbus was at the deadline. If they flame out, that's going to be ugly. That's good because they went all in at the deadline. They went.
And you don't know if they're going to resign.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
no, that's the whole point. But that. Like you said, to that point, it'll be very interesting. Now, to your point too, as you look at the top teams, who's been resting guys, who hasn't? Well, Tampa's been. They won the last game 6-3. With it doesn't matter who they put in there, their guys are still playing. So they know. I think the way that they've played the end of the year is they sort of know that they can't have any letdowns. I think this is their year. To me, is that their year to lose, and it's their year to prove what Washington did last year.
I'll say this: if they lose any of the rounds, I think that's a major disappointment because they've wired this thing.
Yep.
And they've been so
Kenny,
good.
the only question people want to know out there is does it matter if they win or lose? Does Stevie end up here anyways? That's it doesn't matter if they win or lose. That's right, exactly. It doesn't matter if they win, doesn't matter if they lose. To your point, I heard you on the radio. You hear all these things out of New York. Dude, it's called tampering until you hear it till after the regular season's done. So I heard Steve Yzerman, by the way, like my sources tell me that he's going back up to Antarctica or up to the Arctic Circle and help coach Santa Claus's team with Homer. So that's
my
some
point.
rumor.
My point is there'd probably be about 8 or 9 different teams that would like his services.
Yeah.
at this
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
So
this,
So
what's
if
this
you see a
Rangers talk?
report
What
out
do you-
there that says, "Oh yeah, the New York Times came out and said
No,
that
that's
he's
the-
interested in the Ranger job," well,
that's like Timmy. That's like I told you. Hey, Sather just retired. Stevie probably want that president job. Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, would you like to play bass for I don't know, Metallica or?
Yeah, but it's the Rangers. Is he really talking to the Rangers? Like, is that
No, my
can't talk
point
to him,
is
I don't
my
think.
point is
Okay.
that I think it's full of shit.
okay? There you go.
No, but
That's the answer.
but again, to be a president.
Ken Cal.
Oh, Kenny,
Kenny Cal, that jackass.
Kenny, can you call your own goal?
Yeah. He scores. No, so I think it's just blunderblub.
All right.
Don't listen to it. So, all right. Next, that's even though it's a Thursday game, let's stay in the East. 2 seed Boston, 3 seed Toronto. Toronto, as my boy Matt the Diesel Dairy says. Toronto. What do you think? Shawnee?
I like Toronto in this series, and I'll tell you why. Boston played so well down the stretch. To me, I think I put the circle around Anderson. I think that guy. People don't realize, the scoring of Toronto, and they're getting it from different places right now. I put the circle around Anderson. And, you were talking about resting guys. I had a chance to watch the Habs beat the Marlies the other night because the Leafs were resting everybody. I mean, it did. It looked like an AHL game. I think the Leafs are going to pull the upset. That if that's one in the first round that because you guys know as well as I do, somebody's going to beat somebody that it wasn't supposed to happen. If I had to pick one, it's not a major upset, but I'll take Toronto. I think Mike Babcock is. I think they're close. I don't know if they're ready to win a cup yet, but I think they're close.
I don't think they have the goal. To your point, I don't think that goaltending is.
It's all about him. It's all about
him. This Toronto team almost mirrors San Jose, except Martin Jones has proven it before. Now the difference between this Anderson is Calgary, right? It's Mike Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who you put? You know what I mean? Like I'm not really confident in putting anything, and everybody knows I'm a degenerate, But who are you gonna bet on, right? So, to your point, you know what? I'm sticking with Boston. I got to go with Boston because they know how to do it, and I think Tuukka Rask. I think you're right. I think when we're talking about this series, it's going to be if you didn't let in that goal, or if you didn't, because down the stretch too, Toronto just gives up way too many goals. I've seen it way too much. 5-4-5.
They had some crazy games.
And they haven't figured out to shut it down. Because the good teams like Tampa will figure out, okay, we got to win this game 1-0. They can, right? Washington can win a game 1-0. I don't think Toronto can win a game 1-0. Boston can. That's mine. But I think it's 7.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an even series, but history tells me that Boston is going to win again. And, I like Mike Babcock. I like the way he coaches. And I think Toronto has a lot of firepower, but so do the Boston Bruins. Their goaltending is much better with Rask and Halak. It doesn't matter who they throw in there. Marchand, to me, is unbelievable. Bergeron, Pasternak, all these guys. I mean, they're really deep, I think. And I think it's going to be a great series. And hey, trust me, Toronto remembers that last series against Boston. Remember when they could have won that series? Boston came back, won it in overtime. And sent all the fans in Toronto at Air Canada Center home crying. They remember that. But
they got a lot of stuff to
the last
remember
time,
since 67.
The last time that the Bruins, I think, lost to the Maple Leafs was back in 1969. They've lost every playoff series, I think 5 or 6 in a row.
You didn't tell me that. I might be. You might be right on this one, Sean.
You know what you just said? Ken, you open
that
up
might have
Pandora's.
just.
Do you know ticks me off is you, especially you take a look at this division, and these teams haven't played each other. Like a Montreal-Detroit playoff series, we haven't seen that since '78. Leafs and Habs, we haven't seen that since '79. It's a crying shame. I'm sorry, I'm one of those guys. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No,
Let's
you're
go
good.
back to those old divisional matchups, 1 versus 4. Do you know how great it would be in the? Could you imagine in this series, Bruins Wings first round playing the winner of Habs Leafs? Are you kidding me? That would be unbelievable. Obviously, Tampa's in there, and we'll see what Buffalo does with some of the youth that they have. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of an old school guy. Dare I say, a romantic about it. Bruins and Leafs it's just right. It's right. It's absolutely right.
It feels old school, like our little bit of the youth, 8 or whatever it would be. Whenever you get those matchups, so it feels that way. And Toronto's going to be going nuts, and like you said,
I think I got to go with Boston. I just think that Toronto gave away their grinders. Like, you got to have grinders, and I just think they lack in that department. I think goalkeeping's better with Boston. Doesn't mean that Boston is going to win the series. I think they are, just because of that. And offense, I don't know. Sometimes it gets shut down, and I don't know. I just like Boston. I think it's going to be a great series. I think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. I'll take the Bruins in 6.
nice.
Ooh, I'll tell you, Mac, I like the Bruins in 7. I think it's going to be a great series. My question with Toronto is, if they stumble a little bit, are they going to think back to what happened last year? And will they collapse? Will they collapse?
That's a different story, Perry. That's the difference between your question about Tampa Bay and your question about Toronto. If it goes south, I don't think Toronto yet has, because even though they have good young players, winning leadership, and I like John Tavares, but he's still got to learn how to play in the playoffs. It's a whole different beast. So that's the one to see adversity. Do they have a short memory on? Because they might. Who'd you pick in the first one, Perry? Tampa?
Yeah, Tampa.
How many
5.
games?
5.
All right.
Yep.
Washington and Carolina, the first wild card, which, dude, I hope Carolina wins a couple games because their Sallies are the best. I don't care what you say. Justin Williams is my guy, and what they do and their creativity and the way they got those fans. I will turn on NHL Tonight and try to time it to when the game's over if they're winning. If I see on the ticker they're winning, and I'll find the game just to see, because they've some of the sickest celebrations, But I was a big Ocho Cinco Chad Johnson Cincinnati when he started to do that. I think that goes back to the beginning of this conversation about the individuality. But, there's Justin Williams, who's won some cups and has realized that, I like the demeanor of that Carolina team. I don't think they have enough. I think that they always play the right way. They play hard, and they got the guys that you can't pronounce their names and you don't know who they are, except for that Aho guy.
Oh, is he something?
Svechnikov.
Yeah.
But they got good young talent. I just think Washington, when you win, and the experience, I don't think it's a hangover. I think I see Ovi as hungry, that he got a taste. Because it's one of those things that I would expect guys that they spend time to get there, and it's either too much and enjoy it on the way out. No. They almost have something to prove for their coach. Because Barry Trotz went on to the Isle, and Todd Reardon came in there, and I just think that they're too much to handle.
I love Carolina's defense core. I don't think they get enough credit across the board, and that was the thing that, following them the last few years, having the opportunity to go down there, I think they finally made a name for themselves this year. They've got a lot of really good pieces. I worry about Peter Mrazek. And when I say that, I know everybody, has fond feelings of him. Peter can be really good.
Yeah.
Peter can be really not so good. So I worry about that.
But here's the thing, right, is that I would rather have Peter Mrazek in Toronto's net. Because here's the thing. Peter Mrazek has the ability to steal series and to win, whether you want to call it the Steve Penny, the guy you don't know of. He could, right? Remember back in the
84.
Yeah, that's
84.
a great call.
But he's a guy like when you talk about goaltending and guys that can steal, we've seen it here. He's done it in Grand Rapids for the Calder and stuff. That's a goalie that you could lose 9-1 and then could shut out 3 times 1-0.
You know what? I like Carolina too. I like how they're playing, but I just don't think they have enough. And you know what? I give them A for effort because they've played hard. They've done a good job for their coach. They make hockey interesting. They shoot the puck. I mean, they lead the league, I think, in shots on goal. They get 40 shots a game.
To your point, Sean, their defensemen do a great job of getting the puck to the net. Every time you watch a Justin Falk or whoever's on the blue line,
Ashley, Slavin, Dudley.
Walmart.
I mean, they're loaded on the blue line. They really
no,
are.
and to your point, that's what I think in every sport, whether you're a fan, obviously of being a Wings fan or a fan of the sport, there's teams in every sport that you sort of admire from afar because of the way they do things, because of the way they operate, or the way that they play the right way. Like you said, they just don't have enough.
I'm going to throw this at you, though, guys. Washington has given up 249 goals this year. How many think Carolina's given up this year? 223. So they're almost 20 goals better.
How many have they scored, though?
They've scored 245 and 278 for Washington. So that's not much of a difference.
So that tells me, if I'm using my Vegas sport book brain that I acquired back in the 90s, that that series is going to be closer or not. I check the odds and say that that could be an upset series.
But what it tells me is that if you're getting 45 shots on goal a game, chances are you're playing in their end quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think they'll make it exciting, but I just think the experience.
That's a good point,
factor-
though. That's a great Kenny Cal jackass tidbit here on the Grind Time with Darren Mccarty. Keep an eye on that Carolina. They're pesky.
I'll say Washington in 6.
Okay.
I was doing the same thing, Washington in 6, because I think, like you said, Mrazek can steal a couple games, and you would know this coming after winning the Cup. You think Washington, it might take a couple games just to get it back into that playoff mode? Or do you think they'll jump into it right away?
That's a really good point, because Carolina is a team that from puck drop is going to go at you and play the same way. So if Washington's not ready, that's a game, first game, that they could lose. Whereas I would suspect Tampa is coming out of there on a mission. Like, if Tampa's up 3-0 after 1 tomorrow night, I'm not surprised. I think that's just a whole bunch of what to come. But, Perry, you have a great point. It'll be interesting to see how Washington starts out tomorrow. But, a lot of times, too, it's getting the jitters, the bugs, and everything out of the thing. So,
is it harder on the home team, though, in the playoffs, like that game 1? Like, because there's you got all that
I think without history behind you, with youth and inexperience, because I think a lot of time it's the excitement, and then you lack of a better term, blow your wad fucking too early, and
like a teenager,
yeah, attaboy, Kenny.
Well, I remember a guy.
Put that right by Ken Cal.
taking the wind out of
knows how
the
to keep
sails
score.
of the defending Stanley Cup champion in Game 1 in a barn back in the 0-2 conference finals. Wasn't there a Red Wing that had a hat trick against the Avs that game?
Yeah, but that was at home. Yeah, that was at home
You
against
took
Colorado.
you took the wind out of the
Yeah, we were down
sails,
3-2 going into the third. I got a natural hat trick. We won 5-3. It was 2 days before
Great
Griffin's
shots, too.
6th birthday. Thank you. All shouts.
I remember
Kirk
that.
Maltby, number 18 behind me. Greatest
that.
decoy in the world. Greatest 2-on-1 decoy. Some of my best goals are him on a 2-on-1.
I love Tom Wilson.
That's my guy.
Right,
Yeah.
I love, and you know what? He's one of the nicest guys you could ever
I've
meet.
never met him. I need to
I'll
golf with him.
try to find
someday.
him. It's one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet, and you know what? That's the type of guy you go.
He's
to work
old
with.
school, bro.
He's old school.
He's tougher than I ever was, and he's turned himself into a hell of a player, and is the heartbeat on that team. Now, if he can emotionally stay in check, because stuff that he did, he would have got away with in my day. He can't now, because it'd be like me being out there playing right now and try. That's But he's a better.
Mac, but in a certain regard, okay. You scored a lot in the OHL. I think Washington asked Willie to be something that he wasn't. I mean, can he do that? Well, yes, we've seen that. Willie can play. I mean,
Right.
Witt
Oh, yeah. No,
really
but
and you know what?
That's
To
when
your
they
credit-
allow him to play
Yeah.
because it's sort of like how Scotty utilized me between the grind line and then playing with Stevie all the time because you get that ability and it's that confidence. And I see, because Tom Wilson's exactly like I am. You see the love of his teammates for him, and that's his gas. That's his motivation. He don't care about anything else. He plays as hard for them. And plus, I mean, dude, would you want another dude? Like, he's just an assassin.
You know what? It reminds me of when we were talking about the Oilers earlier, and they bounced the Red Wings in 6 games. And Pronger was on that team.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, you know what? This guy's going to be in the penalty box. He took his first minor penalty, I think, in Game 5.
Yeah.
So when you say that Wilson has to stay in check, if he keeps the emotions and plays just the way he can play, that's a big bonus.
He's an asset. And I think that's what you see, on a lesser scale. But they got like 5 of those guys in Tampa. Not to his level,
Sure.
but the Paquette, the Gord, the
Killorn,
guy,
I mean.
Killorn, like they're big guys, and they come and they know they play the game right. So, speaking about playing the game right, Islanders, Pittsburgh, and here's my thing, and I always say it, dude. I said I have Sidney Crosby is one of my favorite just people because as being the face of the NHL. Just his maturation and the way that, like, as a player, because now I get mad watching the abuse he takes more than what he does because he doesn't complain. He just goes out there and plays, and he's just, great role model. One of those things that from, I know when we played him in 08, you had the Crosby, the whiner, this, that, whatever else was a bit. Well, that's not no more. And, they should cut him more slack than they do because he gets abused way too much. But is Pittsburgh too old?
You know what? I'm going with the upset here.
I'm
I'll tell you why.
I'm going with the Islanders.
Yeah, I'm going with the Islanders. And I'll tell you why is because, one, they have a better coach that knows how to shut teams down. He did it in Nashville. We saw it last year with Washington and Barry Trotz. They went from the worst goals against average team last year to the best.
Yep.
And to me, that tells me that they're a better team defensively overall. So, Pittsburgh, hey, they got a great pedigree, right? They've won Stanley Cups. They're starting. They're on the last end. They got the experience.
Here's the
I
thing,
don't know.
right? The 10-year, right? Like, I mean, they got 3 cups. It's coming. Is this the last? Because to me, it's sort of like guys are starting. You talk about back earlier, we're talking about how many games have you played? Well, they're caught in the vortex where we were 10 years ago with Hank and Pav and Nick and Drapes and guys that played just a ton of hockey. This could be their 08, hurrah.
Swan
You can
song,
never
yeah.
count them out because, A, they have a goalie who's done it twice, right? B, you got Crosby and Malkin. Phil the Thrill looks like he's starting to fucking pay attention, and Phil Kessel, yeah, hit the back of the net. They have the pedigree, but to your point, I think it's a 7-game series that the Islanders win.
I think you give Barry Trotz to Jack Adams next year as well for the job that he did because you look at that roster, and I don't know how much you guys have seen him play. They're fascinating to watch because it's exactly what you're saying, Ken. They just limit you. The guy is the ultimate tactician. You could make the argument, Mike Babcock tip of the cap, that he's the best coach in the National Hockey League.
Oh, no, Barry Trotz.
I'm not going against them. I don't think they're going to go much farther than that, but are they capable of winning a series? Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're the scary team to play out there right now because, like you said, they if you watch them, they just go, and they do it the right way. And defense wins championships. How many times you heard that? So
The other thing, too, is in the first round, they're playing at the old Nassau Coliseum. I'm telling you, Mac and Sean, we were there in December, and we played a game there. It was like a playoff game. That atmosphere there is
That's like playing at the Joe.
unbelievable. Like, they split going into New York. It's going to be a tough 2 games for Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, it's going to be a hornet's nest there. So I'm going for the upset, if you want to call it an upset. I like the Islanders, and I think it's going to take 6 or 7 games. I'd say the Islanders in 7.
Islanders 6.
whoa, okay.
I got Pitt in 7.
Okay, all right, there you go.
What do you like, Mac?
I got Islanders in 7. I just think that, like you say, and actually, no, I'm going to change that. I'm going Islanders in 6.
Oh, Islanders in 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Can you
because.
win in the Nassau, that place.
Because
will-
I don't know if coming home steps. Because here's the thing: you got to see who's got home ice, right? Because that 7th game can play to certain teams, right? Where it's more imperative, right? Maybe not so much the Islanders; they don't care where they play, but Pittsburgh to have a 7th game at home would be.
You know what? You asked Ozzy one time. Ask him about what it was like playing in that old college. You played there, I know, but it's wild. I mean, these guys. We were there for just a regular season game, and I'm telling Woody, man.
Could
it's like
you
a playoff game.
saying that? Could you imagine being there for that Tavares game?
Oh yeah.
They were going. What is it like when they were hating him?
Oh, that was unbelievable.
All right, let's move over to the West. Number 1 seeded Calgary. The second wild card is Colorado. Yes, I mean, you got no. I mean, it's one of those things like Calgary and Mark Giordano. What a great kid. He was there when I was there, rookie year. Great kid, great player. Again, there's your argument. It's goaltending to me.
Colorado has arguably the best line in the game.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
Really,
Oh.
I mean, that line is just
The guy that can blow off his skates or that first few steps like Anthony C is McKinnon. He gets that puck and they just separate themselves. But really, that's all they got.
And that's, you know what? And their reinforcements are on the way, and obviously they're going to get Ottawa's puck. So the best is yet to come for them. I don't like their chances at all in this series.
It'll be an interesting series, and you know what? The last time Calgary won 50 games, they won the Cup back in '89, and this is only the second time in their franchise history they won 50 games. So I don't know if that'll tell you anything, but I kind of like them in the series. I think if they can shut down that top line, I don't think it'll be a problem the rest of the way. The key is can they shut that top line down, and does Calgary have the goalkeeping that's going to take to win in a series? So those are question marks, but I like Calgary in 6 games.
5.
I got Calgary in 6.
I got Calgary in 6 too.
Yeah. Well, Billy Peters, first year coach in there, and look what he's done with them.
Great
yeah.
coach, great guy. I think you guys all know that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and that just goes culture, right? You know, you got this is the one thing, and then we could talk about the game, how it's changed, and whatever. Not every team we're talking about here, you know, these guys, they play hard. You know, there's not a team that doesn't play hard. Some of them are, you know, obviously better than others, but there's, you know, reason I guess they're in the playoffs.
The other thing about Calgary, too, is I think they've scored over 120 or 130 third-period goals this year. I mean, they've scored on the season, they've scored 289 goals. 130 some of those have been in the third period. So you can never count them out.
No, and those not, you know, when we're breaking it down, you know, sabermetrics or whatever, like the numbers and stuff, the numbers don't lie. And, you know, it can lean you, okay, so to me that would say, all right, if that game's tied or they're down 10 minutes left in the third, don't turn that game because Calgary more times than not will probably score.
Right.
It's funny how long you guys been around the game. But the numbers, you know, guys, Brendan Shanahan told me this first thing. He said, your shooting percentage, it may change year to year, it'll vary, but your overall will never change. So what does that tell you, right? It tells you the object is just to get as many shots on net as you can because your average, so one year you might have 10%, you get 400 shots, right? There's 40 goals. And the next year, it's 12% and there's 48 goals. Yeah. Right, like, and you're not doing anything different, and it makes sense why Shanny shot from everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's numbers don't lie, and this would be interesting to say. All right, San Jose, Vegas, which to me is the most interesting. At Boston, Toronto on the eastern side, San Jose, Vegas. Is Carlson healthy? He's got that groin injury. I've only tore mine 3 times, and I'll tell you, the biggest thing, and they hit on it last night, is you could feel great. You could feel great. You could feel great. You going on, tweak, done. Yeah. So, I mean, you're dealing with groins. That's tough. Obviously, San Jose,
Is Pavelski back? Is he back? Because he was hurt.
He's hurt. I think he will be back, but I'm not sure.
But again, the question is he going to be 100%?
Yeah,
Right.
It's what was DeBoer's line the other day? He had a funny line. He said, "The time is nigh," in regards to Karlsson coming back. That's how important he is to that team.
Oh well,
it's
you know that's the
period,
one.
end of story.
Well, you know, and for them, and that's one of the things in the future is that the Wings will be really close when they're able to make that off-season free agent acquisition like that, or a move like that where you have that because he's top 3 in the league, whatever like that. But again, to me, that experience. I'm going to Vegas and I'm going in net, and dude, this Marc-Andre Fleury reminds me of Ozzy so much. Just as I would never. He just can when it's down to it. He's a guy that has shown that he can get it done. So I like that Vegas team. I like what Gerard done. I think they gained a lot of experience from last year, and this one's going 7.
I am so happy.
Vegas is 7.
I am so happy for Gerard Gallant because people almost thought of it as almost a circus act that they did what they did last year. And do you remember people going, "This is bad for the league"? No, it's not. It's great for the league. I couldn't stand that.
Have you been to a game
thought.
in Vegas?
I have not been there yet.
I heard it's well, yeah, you worked there.
But
You get paid. Hey, nice gig you got. You get paid to go to Vegas.
Darren, what I remember of the game, I think I've been there.
I heard the game day experience is unbelievable.
But, yeah, how is that? The rink to broadcast there, or the experience, everything they talk about around it?
Yeah, Erin Sequoia used to work at the Red Wings, and now she's the game day person there, and she's done a whale of a job with her team, and they've done a really good job, and it's great. The base gets moving, you can feel it in your body, and they do the the sword thing at center ice,
cool
and the thing about it is that everyone's in their seats before that pregame starts. It's not like they're milling around. It's like they can't wait to get in their seats to
it's
watch
a show.
the show.
So they've
great for the
they've
game.
got it the way that it should be.
Exactly.
As far as you're going, we go to any show in Vegas, I'm going to be in my seat before I see the magician or something like that. So that's all. And
the atmosphere is great. They cheer everything, and it's a really good building, fun building to be around. Yeah,
a lot of Red Wing fans.
A lot of Wings fans.
Good.
Yep.
A lot of red and white.
Everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, no, that and that's always cool.
But I will say this: that the Vegas fans are really true blue. They're there for their team.
Yeah.
I never would have expected an expansion team to be that loyal right away. Although going to the Stanley Cup Final means a lot, right? Yeah. Last year.
Well, you get a really crash course lesson on the excitement and what hockey. I mean, it's actually the perfect storm, so to speak, to happen. Because it's Vegas, because of the tour, because you're not going to get, where else are you going to get a broader expanse of people who don't know the game?
Right.
Right? Then there where they can gamble and then they go, oh, wow. Because we all know this, that you see a hockey game live and then you're done. You're hooked.
You're hooked, yep.
I think there are a lot of teams in the league right now that would like to leave the league for a year and come back and get the kind of package that Vegas did too. Because and give George McPhee credit. You have to make those moves. You have to put that team together because we've said it 100 times. Look at Edmonton. I mean, just year after year after year of having great picks and not making them count. George McPhee made it count. They got the right coach in there. I'm taking Vegas in 7.
All right.
I see a little bit of a different scenario here. I looked at some of these teams, and believe it or not, the Vegas Golden Knights weren't one of the top teams in the second half of the season. And when we saw them, Paul Woods made this point. He goes, they're too loose. And he says the difference from a year ago to now is that they turn the puck over, they make mistakes that they didn't make last year, and they're not the same type of team. Now, with that said, I think Gallant's a good coach, and I think he'll have them ready and battle-tested, and they've got something to prove from last year, right? So this is a difficult series to handicap because when I look at the Sharks, I like them all around. The problem is what team has 2 goaltenders below 90% that's going to take you far? To me, goalkeeping is what it's all about. And I have a hard time looking at San Jose saying, I like Jones and Dell, but, man, they're below 90%. So they're not going to outscore. I mean, the only way to win is if you outscore them, I guess. And in playoffs, as you guys know, things get shut down. So, who's the better defensive team all around, or who's got a better Vegas? It's a great environment there. So as much as I I kind of like San Jose because I don't think Vegas is playing the way they could play. I got to go with Vegas, and I got to go in 7 games.
Oh, I agree with Ken. Vegas in 7, and I think the difference for me, it's going to come down to is the goaltending, and like you said, Marc-Andre.
Yeah,
he's experienced.
I think that's
you
what
doing?
it comes down to. I got him. I got Vegas in 7.
We're all going 7. Wow.
Yeah. No, I think, but
That's
you're
a
right.
tough series.
You're right though, because if that plays out, because it's a great series, but it's got the most question marks as far as moving forward. And Ken Kyle was referring to his longtime color man Paul Woods, the best in the business.
You know what? The thing about Vegas or San Jose too is that I think they can roll 4 lines. I think they're pretty strong. And I like Joe Thornton. Well, he was hurt last year, wasn't he, in the playoffs? But he's healthy now going in. He's got something to prove too. So
I've always liked Joe.
Oh yeah.
and Pavelski's a big question mark. I mean, if he's healthy and if Carlson's healthy. But I don't know which way to go because I don't know how healthy they are.
Right, exactly.
So I like Vegas.
That would flip me, Ken.
Yeah.
If they were all healthy, I think I would take San Jose.
Even if the goalkeeping was below 90%.
Yeah, that's where it goes to Martin Jones. I think having that experience of getting there, that it comes playoff time to elevate it a little bit. But I think that I think Carlson might re-aggravate his injury, or they're not 100%. So, Nashville, Dallas.
I like Nashville a lot. A lot. Period. End of story. I wish there was. I wish I could spruce it up for you. I like Nashville a lot in that series. I mean,
Like you like him like
Like
a
sweep
lot,
a lot?
5
Like
or
s-
like
like sweep
like
a lot?
like 4 a lot.
like sweep a lot. I could see
Wow.
it. Yeah, honestly, give Dallas credit. They found a way to fight their way in. I mean, we'll get to the Blues in a second. That was something else. But Dallas found a way to fight their way in, and Tyler led the way. There isn't a lot there.
No,
there
they're
just
just-
isn't a lot there.
Well, let me throw these numbers at you. Ben Bishop, 934 save percentage. That's outstanding. Hudobin, 923. Those are some great save percentages. Now, do they have the offense? I don't know, but defensively, if you're looking at goalkeeping, and I look at an upset right there.
Oh, you call it upset?
Nashville has been there. They've gone to the final. They didn't win. They're knocking on the door. But to me, goaltending is what it's all about. I'm going to take an upset here. I'm going to go Dallas over Nashville. And I'm going to say it's going to be in 7 games.
Wow, Ken Cal.
Gutsy.
Is he stepping up? We got Shawnee going. Did
because
you
of
drop
goalkeeping.
the sweep or did you go 5?
You know what? I'm going to go 5.
I guess if he's going 7.
No, you know
I
what? Honestly, it's a really good point, and a lot of it does come down to Pekka because we've seen
I'd pick a hey,
we've
I'll
seen
pick,
we've
I'll
seen him
pick
go
a
like this a
Pekka.
little bit too, right?
I know.
We've seen him do that a little bit.
Who's
the
yeah,
monster?
Pick a Pecorines.
Pucker. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree, Kenny. I think it's one of these series that either one of you are going to be right.
I don't think
It's
there's
either
any
going to be
between.
Nashville in 5 or Dallas in 7, and I'm going to go Dallas in 7.
Wow.
I think that
You talked
because
him into
of
it.
what happened earlier in the year and whatever else, I don't know. I'm just trying.
If they win that
Nashville.
series, they're going to win games 2-1. They are. I mean,
yes.
Dallas is going to win games 2-1.
Here's the thing.
That's an overtime. That is a game that has overtime written all over it.
Now, in my heart, who's the better team? Obviously, I say Nashville. Nashville's a better team. But when I look at goalkeeping, not for 4 rounds, but in the first round,
Yeah.
I kind of think that Dallas is a little bit stronger, and I'm just going with the upset. There's always an upset. You just got to pick the right one.
All I know is I want his stat sheet.
That's it.
Ken came prepared. He's ready
Well,
to.
dude, do you know he knows where to pick them up at? He's a smart
absolutely.
guy. He
Yes, he
collects
is.
them, and he
He's,
knew he was
yeah.
coming. I like that. What'd you have, Perry?
Nashville in 6.
Okay. All right. I'll let you lead off, Sean, because this is going to be a war.
Love it.
Winnipeg and St. Louis.
Not that long ago, the Blues were thinking about selling, and the Blues were thinking about, making a lot of different moves, and there were a lot of rumors involving the Blues. I think, I forget the exact date, I want to say from January 2nd on, nobody had more points than the Blues. I think it was 65 points. I mean, they loaded it up down the stretch. Winnipeg is interesting because I think a lot of people thought that Winnipeg was going to take that proverbial next step this year. And they legitimately could take that proverbial next step this year. But if it happens, it's going to have to happen during the playoff. They kind of meandered their way through the season. I like the way, as we're watching the draft lottery right now, I like the way that their general manager, Kevin Cheveldayoff, built this team. And what he did, he said, we're going to suck for a few years. But you know what? Every junior rink you went to, I saw that guy everywhere. I saw him when I was doing the Whalers with NTDP. He did his due diligence. They have an embarrassment of riches. I think they're too talented. I think they beat the Blues. That's another great series. I'm going Winnipeg in 7.
Wow. I love that Winnipeg team. I think it's a tough place to play. I played there in junior with the in the minors in the playoffs. With the Griffins, I think the whiteout, there's nothing like it, and it was pretty cool even back in the day when we went to Winnipeg
and went to Phoenix too, right?
And then went to Phoenix, and then they have the whiteouts. Yeah, I mean, what was Patrick Liney's final stats line for the year?
He had over 30 goals, Darren.
He did.
He had a roller coaster season.
Yeah, he's streaky too, but he's one of those guys that he catches a little fire, like gets a goal early or whatever. I mean, he's a guy that can go Franzen, Colorado on you, and that's what I mean, like 9 goals in 4 games.
Is he a money player, you think? You think he's a money player?
I think that, yeah. I think that he likes money. Like, Ovi to me is now whatever, but I think Laine likes that spotlight. You know what I'm saying? Like, come and be in the finish. And I think that he's sort of coming into his own. And I think that with...
okay, we're safe to 6.
We're safe to 6?
Yep.
All right, we're safe to 6 right here, live.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. So I like them. I'm going Winnipeg in 6 games.
Okay, here's 6.
We'll get to my pick, but let's cover the draft a little
bit.
Here,
okay. So 6, Buffalo 7.
There it is.
Okay.
Son of a bitch.
The wings slide 2 positions.
We fell 2 positions to 6. So
it's not that bad.
6th overall.
It's not that bad.
No, I agree with that.
So
the number 5 overall selection in the 2019 NHL draft belongs to the Los Angeles Kings.
Wow.
Lucky Luke Robitaille.
Look at Chicago and the Rangers jump up.
Wow.
Down to number 5. And Bill, I think we know what that means for the number 4 spot.
the Chicago?
Rangers.
Oh, Rangers.
The number 4 overall selection in the 2019 NHL draft belongs to the Colorado Avalanche.
Boy, how do you think Ottawa feels now?
Here are your
Wait,
lottery odds.
hold on a sec. Is that? Did you have some tears in this room?
To the number 4 spot.
Yeah.
And our final
No, because Colorado got
New
4th.
Jersey,
Yeah.
the
How do you think Ottawa feels
and
now?
the Chicago Blackhawks, they will
Better.
in the
You know what?
It was the first pick.
You know what, guys? I'm not a big fan of how this works. Like, really, I think that it should be only the top 4 or 5 teams that should be able to select. I mean, to have a team from behind, like last
How does
year.
Chicago get all the way up there?
from 10 down to 12.
See,
Or was
that's
that
not
in
right.
a trade?
No, you're right.
No, that's in the
So they were,
draft.
they were sitting at
Lottery odds.
12, right?
They jumped up. They jumped. They're
were sitting
your
at
ping
12.
pong balls. Yep.
Buffalo will
Could they get 1? Or they can only move up to 3?
the Wings at
So-
number 6. The Kings slide
I think they would have probably put them in there already if they can only go to
Friggin' rigged, man.
from 1.
That's why.
Rigged.
Yeah, but you
That
watch.
6 is
You
rigged, I
watch.
can tell
Mark
you that
my
right
words here on this Tuesday, right? Watch who falls. Watch who we get. We'll be happy.
Yeah.
We'll
There's
be
no
happy.
doubt in my mind.
They're positive.
There's
All right. Well, we don't.
The-
We don't really care who gets the first pick. We got 6.
You know, I know we talked about it earlier, but it bears repeating. This is a good top 10. They're going to get a good player. This is a very good top 6. You know, I'll just tell you again, just from the NTDP, there are probably 3 guys that could go in the top 10 that are being slated for the top 10. This is going to be historic for them in the first round in particular, but this is a good top. They're going to get a good player.
You talk about bad luck too. This is the 3rd year in a row the Red Wings have dropped back.
That's
I mean,
tough.
really.
Who are we
you
not
know what?
paying?
We don't do things the easy way around here. They're going to make it tough on us. But we did. But the way it worked out last year is that what dropped is what we needed. And
Right.
Zadina. And you see that, yeah, it's just like you're saying. A lot of this isn't quick fix. Like these aren't football players. These aren't jumping out of the draft. Let's get them some time. Let's put them in a position to succeed, right? So whoever you get, might want somebody that can percolate. To me, I always believe that what is supposed to be will be. It'll work out the way it's supposed to be. And hopefully I'm right in this case.
They might have to go to university for a year or two. They might
That's fine.
They might have to stay in junior for a year. But you know what? I think the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is bring up that kid that isn't ready. Because I'm not going to name a player. We'll do it off the air. How's that? There's a kid that I saw in the OHL that was unbelievable. That there was somebody within the Red Wings organization that was. Can you believe this kid? And in my opinion,
Who is it?
He played defense for the Kitchener Rangers. But in my opinion, I think that kid got to the National Hockey League and his confidence was shot. He was never that same guy, and you saw it. And it was interesting because I talked to that same person about that same player about 5 years later, and they were like, he got in over his head and he lost it. I mean, it just. Things fell apart.
Too soon.
But here's the thing, Kenny, and this is what I asked you on that point. I would think back in my day or even 10 years ago, maybe more so, but I think it would be easier because of the talent level, because the maturity's not up to par, the talent is up to par. In today's day and age where it would be easier to be super talented and less mature, right, to succeed than it would be. Because if you're the biggest thing for us or coming out wasn't like we're guys, if they were strong enough and stuff like that, was how to be a pro. You know, there's a whole level to being 18, 19, 20 years old and playing junior and having different responsibility. To your point, I think it all goes down to the individual, but you're right. But I'm wondering, because more so nowadays, I broke in at 21. That's like breaking in at 19 now, right? So, I mean, but guys are younger and younger because they're more talented, they're more developed.
Well, how many times in Coach Blashill, I actually talked to him last week, and he talked about this. There's such a big difference between a forward coming into the league and a defenseman coming into the league. There's such you can't put a price tag on that. It's very rare that you get like a Cam Fowler.
Right.
Like that blew everybody's mind because he was good in junior, but the way that he seamlessly jumped in. Drew Doughty's another one. Like Drew Doughty, when you saw him playing for Guelph, you're like, kid, you don't belong in this league. Like it just goes someplace. Just jumped in seamlessly. And those are few and far between.
Right.
So, you know, you see some of the forwards get the opportunity earlier. Defenseman, it takes a little longer. It just does. And if a kid's confidence gets shot, he may never get it back. And that's sad to see, in my opinion.
I think that one of the things is that, especially with Kenny Holland at the helm, is that, you know, you got the term percolate, but they're not afraid to let guys develop a little bit. Now, I think it's trying to find the right combination of too long and too short or whatever like that. But, you know, there's definitely a plan in place.
You know, this is no different than back in '83 when Stevie first came here. And this is what I tell the fans in Detroit. You know, embrace these guys right now because we didn't know anything about you or McCarty or Yzerman, or we knew about Shan a little bit, but Fedorov, Lidstrom, the guys that we drafted, nobody really knew about them, but they grew up before your eyes, and you saw them play, and you saw them compete, and you saw what they could do. That's what we're seeing now, in my opinion, with Bertuzzi and Mantha and Larkin and everybody else. Down the road, you just keep adding. We got some good talent in the minors with hopefully, you know, Zadina comes up. Chalowski's better next year. The center that's playing in the Quebec League, Joe Valeno.
Yeah.
So you got some good players coming up, and they're going to be your core down the road.
And the biggest thing, Ken, was watching back when Konstantinov, Lindstrom, Sergei, when everybody came in, you know, people drew they had their perceptions of him early on, right away, like, oh, look at it, you know, he's this or that. and then you take a season and then you go, oh wow, look at their development. This looks like a pretty good hockey player.
Absolutely. And as good as Stevie was with points and everything, it took him a while too. It takes everybody a while. He was great off the bat, point wise, but I think down the road he learned the play on both sides of the puck, right?
Well, there's a difference when you have to learn is what you have to learn to win. I think it's one of the things that, as talented as he is, Connor McDavid's got to have to learn that he's going to have to sacrifice some points, to be responsible. I mean, it's just one of those things. Now, it's not entirely him, but
there's something in the water up there. I'm not even trying to be funny. Dude, there's something in the water up there.
We're talking about Edmonton because
it is so. I've watched guys. Now, the kid that they got out of Sarnia, in my opinion, and I talked to somebody that I think they got the wrong kid out of Sarnia, in my opinion. I thought Galchenyuk was the better player. Now, Galchenyuk hasn't turned into a stud yet, but Galchenyuk or Yakupov. I mean, but there's something to have that much talent. Remember a couple of years ago, that was a fun team to watch, and they won a playoff series, and you're like, okay, here we go again. And they just fell flat on their face. There's something amiss up there. There's something amiss up there.
It's wild to have two couple 100-point players and not make the playoffs.
But look at the guys they got rid of. I mean, Taylor Hall and I mean.
Speaking of Taylor Hall, they traded him to New Jersey. The New Jersey Devils will have the first pick in the 2019.
And then who came second and third?
Rangers
were second.
Rangers and Hawks. Third. So
wow.
Teams moved up.
Chicago moved up 9 spots.
So the New York market, the Chicago market.
And if Scotty Bowman effect on the Chicago bingo ball, still to this day, 2019, he got in there some way and then manipulated that ball.
No. You know what it was, Mac? He had the envelope there, the card in the freezer. It was the cold envelope.
That's what it was. Yeah. All right, let's finish these pools off.
Just real quick, Winnipeg, St. Louis. Before we got sidetracked there, the Blues have been playing really good hockey. I give the advantage though to Winnipeg. I think it's great home ice advantage right there for Winnipeg. I'm going to take the Jets in 6 games.
Awesome.
That's Mac. Actually, that's what I have. The same thing. And there's we got a Facebook guy, Darren Reynolds goes Jets in 6, Morrissey back. City goes nuts again with White out, regardless of how well the Blues have been.
Well, I went to high school with Dink. That's Dink Reynolds.
Did you?
Yeah, and he knows his hockey. I mean, he watches a lot of it. You do, Dink. I know you still do, bro.
Okay.
But he's right. I got him in 6 too. He must have looked at my sheet like you did. Nothing changes. He did that in history class in 11th grade in Belleville, too.
Seriously, he was looking off of your
yeah,
test
in
scores?
history class off of this right now, probably, who knows, from Belleville. What do you want? Yeah. All right, second round.
They have to reseed, right?
Oh, they do. That's right. So we'll have to wait.
We'll have to wait on that.
We'll have to wait, and we'll do an update. That's right. So to recap, I have Calgary over the Avalanche in 6, Vegas over San Jose in 7, Dallas over Nashville in 7, Winnipeg over St. Louis in 6, Lightning in 5 over Columbus, Boston with a 7-game, breaking the hearts of the Maple Leafs, in 7, 5 for the Capitals. Yeah. Why did I stop there? Because that one doesn't feel right. 6 for the Islanders. So I think we're pretty much on board. Sean, what do you got?
I have Lightning in 5. I have the Leafs pulling the upset in 7. I have the Caps in 6. I have the Islanders knocking off the Pens. I have Winnipeg over the Blues in 7. I have the Preds over Dallas in 3. I have San Jose over. Sorry, Ken. I have Vegas over San Jose in 7, and I have Calgary over Colorado in 5.
You know, the only thing I'm looking at mine, I have 1, maybe 2 upsets here, but usually there's a couple of upsets, right? I mean, usually in the first round.
Well, I mean, yes, it depends which year. There's also overtimes, and last year, really screwed me. So it could be all, it could be none. This sort of feels, though, like the final, like the March Madness sort of first few rounds where there's, maybe one game or one team will go, but I think it's pretty much the close. I think we nailed it as far as the way. If there's more upsets than, biggest upset on here, what is Dallas?
Maybe, yeah.
Dallas over, would you say Dallas, New Jersey?
Nashville.
Nashville. Who do you got, Kenny?
I got Calgary in 6, Vegas in 7. That'll be a tough series, but I like Dallas in 7 with the upset kind of. Winnipeg in 6. Or on the other side, I got Tampa Bay in 6. I'm giving Columbus. I mean, that could be 4. I mean, I don't know.
That's the one that could be that they could just go dink, dink, dink.
Yeah, and I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. They might win 2 home games. I don't know, probably not, but I'll give them a little credit there. I could see it sweeping though. Boston, tough series. It could go either way. I'm saying Bruins keep it going. Leaf fans aren't going to be happy, but 7. Washington in 6 over Carolina again. That could be a 4 or 5 gamer, but I'm giving them a little credit because they're not bad offensively, I guess. And I like the Islanders over the Penguins in 7.
Did we all take the Islanders, by the way? Did everyone?
No, I took Pitt.
Oh, you took
I
Pittsburgh?
did take
What do you
Pitt.
got?
Just,
Terry, what do you got? Because if I don't get it on air, you're going to take that home and you're going to change all your answers to winners.
I got Calgary in 5, Vegas in 7, Nashville in 6, Winnipeg in 6, Tampa in 5, Bruins in 7, Caps in 6, and Pitt in 7. Oh. And you know what I noticed? Listen to all of ours. Nobody had a sweep. That's crazy in the first round.
Yeah,
I had 3. Yeah, I had the 3.
Well, you had a 3.
Three-game sweep.
But I mean, think about it. Back in years past, you'd see at least probably a couple sweeps.
Perry, there's more parity now. That's the only reason.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Batman hockey. What do you expect when down to the last game, you got 4 teams that are in the playoff? I mean, you don't know seedings, you don't know whatever, you can't prepare. You know how. So here's the thing. The worst, these poor assistant coaches coming down to the wire. I mean, if you're, no matter who you are, you got to prepare. So you've been spending,
4 different teams.
4 different teams that you got to prepare for 2 nights. And the thoroughness on your playoff package is like, I don't know. I never did a SAT, but I've heard studying for them sucks. So, I mean, it's like thick. Right? You get every detail down to, so the way that it would be is that all the scouts come in and everything. You have this big meeting. They hand out these books that are top secret that you got to give back. Scotty made you give it back because he figures somebody might slip it out. But it pretty much breaks it down to, for us, is that, okay, here's who you have to play better than. Here's your guy. Here's who you're going to. So for me, it would always be like a left D man. Or somebody like that, where I have to own this guy every time because I'll probably be playing against him. And it would break down his tendencies and different things like that. Then you go that into paddle and kill, for every different thing. It would literally take, the time that they would spend on video and just something like this, it was like days. And to be able to have to do it, not now, granted now with the video it's a lot easier, and more cameras, I suppose there's more record of it, but now is the time where preparation, and this is where you see the organizations that do it.
Let me ask you this, Darren, and for our listeners out there, because they're not around, they're not inside the locker room, this takes them inside. Did Scotty change his coaching at all during the course of like in his pregame talks? Or let's say, was it different when you guys were up in a series, or was it different when he was down, or was he the same when he talked to you guys?
He never talked to us. That's the best part. No, I mean, that he would come in for a couple-minute meeting to tell you who started or whatever like that. You go in and do office meetings. Babs was totally different. Now, Scotty would be more change the hotel, leave Cancal somewhere because, right. He wasn't on the bus on time or, he would change the schematics around it. See, Scotty would want to keep the similarity, but he's like an illusionist because he want you to change the focus. So even though things would be the same, that they would be different. More psychological. I would say Scotty, it wasn't more the coach, it was more the psychologist, right? To put you in what frame you did. Usually when we're going good, nothing needs to be said. Although the one time that he did address the team was before the game 7, 0-2 against Colorado, when he knew he was going to retire after the game, and he pretty much said it for it. He said, "Hey guys, I didn't, one of the things I regret, I didn't really tell you. So no matter how this ends up, I want to know I'm all proud of you, and you played for me, and this, and just wanted you to know that, like it was like."
Did you guys respond that game?
We won 7-0.
No.
Yeah.
I love you, softball, and you
Sure,
crushed
yeah,
it, dude.
yeah.
Wait,
You
dude, I'll
crushed
tell
it.
you the weirdest part, though. We're up 4-0 after 1. Everybody says, "Oh, before the third period, like the cops or whatever." No, the scariest moment of the Detroit Red Wings in the history is after the first period, up 4-0. It's Colorado in Game 7, looking around, going, "If anybody moves and jinx this thing," nobody wanted to do nothing. So I always say the most important goal was Frederick Olsson's to make it 5-0, like 2 minutes
did
into
you
the
guys
second.
respond? Ooh.
It was just one of those things. Well, like when certain, and there's been certain times where you just know it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to go well. I didn't have that feeling for that goal I scored, but I did on this game when I saw Nick shoot a puck into the corner and Homer tip it from the middle of the top of the slot to go into the net, like on something that had no business going in. We've seen games enough where it was like, wow, this might be our time, but that's where Scotty was. Scotty was a psychologist, wanted to throw you off. And
That's awesome. What a great
You
story.
know what I remember, too, about Scotty is, if you guys were down in a series, let's say 2-1 or something like that, he would take the pressure off you guys by coming up with something strange and screwy that he would talk to the media about, so we wouldn't be talking to you about what was going on.
how many
just
times
said that
would
the
this
other
happen,
day.
Ken?
Yeah.
Ken, how many times would you do this? Hey, Scotty, what about that call the linesman made on the offside in the second period? Turn to Ken and go, "Yeah, I don't know if the AC's working in the far end or not, but there's a puddle down. If they don't clean that water up outside the crease, guys are slipping on it every time. I'm glad you brought it up. Hey, can we get that guy?" And then, because you know how media guys are, right? Usually, like, there'll be one or two ask the question, then they see him answer, and then 4 swarm in. They don't know what the question is. So whatever he's going off on, he's sitting there going, "I didn't ask you that question," like, to his head. Everybody else is just, and he goes off, and then somebody asks him a question about the ice and about whatever he wanted to talk to. And it's like the Pied Piper, and and it was never about us. It was never, it was always to pull whatever, because he knew exactly where they want to go and would never let the media go that way. And he was the hardest on our guys. That's right. He was, dude.
Could you imagine? We're all talking about the parity, but could you imagine if we had in today's league with the parity that we have? Could you imagine if we had a best of 5 still? Like it's been since 19. Do you know how many upsets we'd seen a best of 5?
You'd see quite a few.
Because the teams, we've seen it 100 times. Teams find themselves. You guys, a slew of games. You lost
down
the first
2-0
couple of games.
before you
and-
sniff.
Yeah.
What?
Well, you know what? When you're talking a best of 5, that's game, set, match. That's we're old enough to remember the best of 5. There's a generation. My son, for example,
Perry's old enough to remember best of 3.
no idea what a best of 5 is. So he was like, "Dad, what was that like?" And I said, there was something cool about it. There was something. Now, I don't want to go back because more hockey's good. We win with more hockey. But just when you were talking about the parity, Mac, and teams getting to prepare, well, a lot of times these teams that are racing the playoffs, the Edmonton Oilers had a pretty good idea they were going to play the Detroit Red Wings. Whereas the Detroit Red Wings were going, well, we might play them, we might play them, we might play them. Advantage? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, like same thing. Maybe that's what you're seeing with Columbus off the get go. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's going to be exciting. I think for this first round, obviously, gentlemen, I want to thank you. We're going to keep this update as these rounds go on, and we'll figure out a way to make sure these picks keep going. Talk about this, but I want to thank you not only for it keeps. The more I do this, keeps letting me know that, guys, see, athletes and media people can be friends. Because I look around and man, maybe something's wrong with me because
But nobody hated you, Mac. Come on.
I was going to say maybe
never.
certain athletes and certain reporters.
No,
Guys,
dude, I was a dream. I always had a career.
Exactly. You
I was
always
willing
talk to the media.
But I always loved it, though. But I always, and that's the thing, is that my relationship, and here's now, retired, 10 years with all the history that we have, what people realize is that, everybody's the human being. Everybody has, and here's the one thing. Ken Kal is the voice of the Red Wings. But Ken Kal is also, too, does that job, but has been a lifelong Red Wing fan.
Sure.
And he's living his dream out as much as I have. And I think you do an excellent job in doing that. And I want to say thanks, not only for the years of taking the abuse from me walking on and off the bus, but just, Ken Kal, hey, hell of a bowler, softball player, golfer. This guy can do anything.
Back in the
one
day.
summer,
He can play D too.
well, one summer he went like 17 for 17 in softball. It was sick.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good team, though. We had a really good softball team.
We did.
And, Perry was, the one year we had the lockout, and I had the, privilege of playing with the alumni, and you and Matt Pavlich were doing the lines, and it was fun. And Sean, I remember you going out to the state fairgrounds, and you were there watching a few games.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It was a lot of fun. And that's what it's all about. I mean, the fun part now is that we can all sit around and reminisce about some great times we had.
I love it because we were all greater, back then. So what do you got, Kenny? What do you got coming up? You got something going on what do you got going on now that since you don't have to prepare for a playoff run?
A little time off, and I'm going to
travel.
I'm going to go to the East Coast. My wife's folks are from there, and so we're going to spend some time.
Lobster and chowder?
No, out in Baltimore, crabs.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Maryland,
and then that's about it, and just get ready.
What is a summer for a? Let people know. I'm a hockey player. I'd be off right now. I'd probably take some time off, make sure I'm golfing, then start working out. What do you do to get prepared for the next?
Well, you know what? I'm a little more busier than some of the other guys, just because I have more responsibility in the summer. I'm not always there in the office for 40 hours a week.
Right.
But there are things that like golf outings, charity golf, fun stuff. We have our kids camp coming up in July that I'm a big part of. We have our adult fantasy camp for the hockey players coming in, and that's always fun. To be able to call that game and hang out with them during the week, and that's where I see you in the summertime because you play.
Yeah.
And then we got the development camp coming up right around the 4th of July, and I'm a big part of the prospects tournament right before.
Now that's down here this year, right?
Yes.
At the Little Cedars.
And the prospects tournament's great because you have 8 different teams coming in, and I call the Red Wing games there, and so it's a lot of busy work. I mean, it's not like you have the whole summer off, but it's fun stuff too. And Sean, you know what it's like. I mean, just being around and you just do your thing.
Yeah, that's it's different for me now. When your son goes away to college, I'm that dad. I honestly, I want to cry 2 or 3 days a week. I'm not joking.
Right.
My boy's in Chicago. What am I doing? But you know what? We're going to Wrigley Field a lot. He doesn't live far from Wrigley.
Cool.
So that's the type of thing. For me, the next few weeks, the draft, the NFL draft, and doing this stuff for Lions Radio keeps you pretty busy. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Give me a little, what do you think? Lions 8.
You know what? I really do think where there's smoke, there's fire. I think they're going to move out. And
that's
normally
I
I
think they're
yell at
best.
people for saying that because the amount of times we say it and the amount of times it happens are two different things. But if there was ever a year to do it, it would be this year. And it's interesting because Bob Quinn even said, we're open for business. He made a point to say.
What's your take or your personal fan feeling on the way the organization with Bob Quinn and Patricia, the direction?
I think it had to happen. I really do. I think I think no disrespect to Coach Caldwell or anybody else. I think it needed a culture change. I really do. And I like Bob. I'm openly. I think he wants to build it the right way. And I think especially his insistence on let's get this offensive line right.
Okay.
And there's more coming. I don't think it'll be the first round, but there's more coming. You have to get that offensive line right. And if I know it's so easy around here. And it wasn't that long ago people would say it about the Red Wings. So I don't believe in the totality of the Lions are always going to suck. Well, you know what? It wasn't that long ago people were saying things like that about the Red Wings. You get the right people in place who hire the right people, and things can change. And I really do think Bob's the right guy, and it's going to take some time.
Sean, does Bob leave? Is he on call? Is he on notice along with Patricia?
If they have 6 and 10, I would think so.
So anything short of an organic playoff?
Yeah,
spot?
I don't know about that. if they went 9-7, can you justify getting rid of them? Well, I don't know. I mean, the one thing that Bob said that's saying to me is I think what Lion fans make the mistake of doing is they compare the Lions to the Lions. Well, I don't want to compare the Lions to the Lions. I want to compare the Lions to the rest of the National Football League.
Don't worry, you're going to be.
It doesn't look like
you're
the same
going to want to
game.
compare the Lions to the Browns.
It's not the same
Well,
game.
and that's what Bob said. Bob said, "Hey, listen, just going 9-7 isn't good enough for us." So he put that onus, he put that target on himself by saying that. So the goal should be the playoffs, and I know that's Bob's goal, but I think they're heading in the right direction. I really do.
Yeah, I'll be watching. It's so hard. It's so,
Yeah.
and what you just said, that comparing the Lions to the rest of the league, dude, as from a kid, I mean, come on, we're all the same Lions fan here, right? It's so hard when you doesn't even look like the same goddamn game.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got 3 other teams to beat to win your division, and you know what? It can't be that difficult, right? No, I'm serious.
Well, this year, right?
Like
We
out
have
of all the years,
the
like,
division
I
looks
think
good.
this year is going to be tough. Chicago's going to be.
Rodgers is hurt,
but yeah.
or just go on his way out.
But see,
right?
that was the problem in the past. Was you always had good quarterbacks on the other teams that you can't. It would be like going against Brady. All those, like how do you think the Bills and the Jets feel all the time? So it's the same thing.
Well, Ken, let me tell you a little story about this team I used to play for that ran up and they got to the pinnacle and then they lost and then they set a league record and then they thought they were going to get to a pinnacle and then they really lost and they looked at themselves and went, "Oh fuck, we may never get back here. We may never get back here, so we cannot let this happen
Isn't that
again."
crazy? People forget that. Like the window has closed for the Red Wings. I mean, how many
I
times
got my
do you hear
Russian
people say
5
that?
shirt on. Please go see the Russian 5
Yes.
movie if you
was
haven't
a great
seen it
movie.
yet. The 2 things I got from it is, man, we won because it didn't matter who was to the left or to the right. You knew that person loved that person, unconditionally, no matter where they were from or whatever. And 2, oh my God, it wasn't easy. Oh my God. Like I've seen it 3 times, and the second time it just hit me like a wave, like, oh my God. Like not just the ups and downs with the winning and the accident stuff, but just, it was painful. But I'm glad it worked out for us. So, we're still waiting. That's what I tell everybody. You felt it. You know what it feels like because you've done it. You have to go back, a few years or whatever with us. We're just waiting to see. That's what we're waiting for, the Lions. I'm not saying it's coming, but.
Kenny, you're about to start your 25th year calling Red Wing games?
25th
You're
year.
up to 25th year.
Congratulations.
You know what?
Congrats, man.
This might be your best.
And how much would you like to call another Stanley Cup final?
Oh, I'd love to call a championship. I mean, a final's great, but another championship. And, I like I said, like the years are getting up there now, and, you don't know how long you'll be doing this, and so you just hope that, maybe these guys come around and, with the next few years they can go deep into the playoffs and, and then you get a chance again, But, I'd love to get another one.
Well, I hope you do.
4 rings, one
Definitely.
for the thumb, right?
Yeah.
There you go. I hope you do. And
Sure. All right. Before I let you go, one thing then Ken, you leave me with one thing that maybe, what's your favorite, might not be your favorite memory of broadcasting a Red Wing game? Do you have a favorite call?
Again, I guess I would have to say in '97 when you finally won it. And I'll tell you why, because as you mentioned and alluded to earlier, I'm from Detroit, and I always was a Red Wing fan growing up. And I know what it was like to go 42 years without winning a cup. And I always said to my buddies that I hung around with, still hang around with, I said, you know what? I said, I can't wait for the Red Wings to win a Stanley Cup, kind of like the Lions, because I've grown up here all my life. But think about this, and I just thought about this the other day. It's like, when I was saying that, how did I know I was going to be the next one to call it?
Hey,
You know what I mean?
how crazy is this? I score that goal. You hand it off in the second period to Bruce Martin.
So classic.
Wait. Which happened to be, but everything.
goal.
You call the cup. I score the goal. It's just Pollock and a munja kick from Canada. Just love the Red Wings the same and had that opportunity. That's the whole point. Is that what I tell everybody, and the perception and perspective is like, if you believe it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It all works out in the end. It really does. And you know what? I wanted Bruce to be back, and I'm so glad that he didn't say, nah, I'm done. I'm glad he wanted to come back because out of all the years that he called the Red Wing games, and he's called some finals, he never called the Stanley Cup championship, but to call the cup-winning goal scored by you on a beautiful play, and he had a great call. And
you underplayed that a little bit. I beat one guy one-on-one my whole career, Sean. It's all timing.
And it was a great call, and for him to be able to get a ring and celebrate, and it was just great.
We grew up in an era too where I think the younger generation doesn't know this. The Red Wings weren't on every game, so you had losers like me take my radio and turn my radio on and put it underneath my pillow because my dad would punch me in the face for listening to a game at 10 o'clock at night. And I can't tell you, I'm not joking, how many times I went to bed like that, where I had my radio on underneath my pillow listening to Bruce Martin sing me to sleep.
Dang, you know what, dude? Just think, if we were sitting here, we could have gone back and said you were prepared for a career.
Yeah.
You were studying, Dad. You were studying.
Did you listen to Red Wing games when you were growing up in Canada?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just
across the border. So I'd listen to that. That's to me to have listened to Sid Abel and Bruce Martin and to have heard it on the radio and then I didn't know till my dad told me. Like the next day or something like that, did you know that, my mom, somebody was talking about that you did such a classic thing in second period and then they called my goal and then to get to hear it. And it was just really cool because it's the same feeling as I remember, I don't know how many times driving in the car, listening to it on the radio.
Here's a good McCarty story too. I was at the Shores Inn in St. Clair. It's okay to say it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is a podcast. You can say it.
Yeah,
that's
can.
Right.
That's
right.
It would have been in 1993.
I was drinking,
and I was sitting there watching the Red Wings in St. Louis, right? And I really didn't know much about Darren McCarty, but you scored a goal in overtime.
Yeah, I did.
And the celebration you had afterwards, I go, man, I like that McCarty.
Yeah, Vladdy, I remember that one. Yeah. It was a rebound. Yeah. I think I came off the bench and pounded in the rebound, and I got excited.
That was a game winner.
You brought up how hard it is to win the cup, and I could tell in your face the sincerity, and I think it made me think of the greatest commercial is it's about the cup commercial that the NHL puts out where they show like Ken Cal, for example. Hey, what does this mean to you? And you guys can't say anything. And you're in it, Ozzy's in it. I love that commercial because really to me, Mac, that puts in perspective what you're saying. We don't understand what a grind it is. We don't understand how, and these guys are going, and really, because at that moment, it's like, are you serious? This is over?
But it's also, too, is you don't know, because right then, too, and it's not like you don't know how hard it was. It's almost like everything pours on you how hard it was, but it doesn't matter because you won. But, all that work, and then it sort of goes away because you sort of forget it. And then when everything dies down, it's like adrenaline. And then it hits you.
I remember the 2008 Cup, and it was Ozzy made a save and went the rebounds through the goal crease, and then it seemed like the game was over, and nobody celebrated right away.
Yeah, because Cleary had the worst celebration ever. Dan Cleary froze there. He's standing in front of Ozzy, and he just.
Yeah, exactly. It was almost like there was a pause.
He never won before, but God damn, I almost beat him from the dressing room.
But there was a 2-second pause before they start throwing their stuff in
Any reaction, yes.
Yeah.
Right, but think about that, and I was just watching that the other day. The end of the 08 that hosted across the line, which it wasn't really going to go. Yeah. It wasn't even close. If it was going that way, I would have. But then I just watched Fleury's save on Nick.
Lindstrom, yeah.
Dude, that I never had seen. I thought that Nick had a chance. Dude, that was an unbelievable, unbelievable save. That was a game's
tie-in goal.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that would have been.
How about you, Sean? What in your broadcasting? Any great memories?
You know what was really cool is the Game 7 night. That was Because, first the Statue of Liberty, and I was doing the
Oh, you're talking Game 7
yeah,
in 2002?
I was doing the post-game show for a different radio station
That
at the time.
Statue of Liberty Game 6?
That was Game
2-0
6,
game?
and then in 2002, the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, it was
and
six,
then you guys
game,
came, that was
right.
Game 6. And
but
then,
it ended up 2-0 Game 6. Who scored the second goal?
The celebration that night.
I did.
That was one of those nights. Because, boy, looking back, 4 years seems so long. Isn't that weird? I don't know if it felt that way to you guys, but it seemed so long. And Colorado had their way with you a couple times and everything. And while that didn't have the shenanigans that it did, it was, you kind of rub Waz's face in it a little bit, with the Statue of Liberty and then the way you chased him in Game 7. I remember being on the air that night, and we literally, Greg Brady, who works in Toronto now, we were on till 6 o'clock in the morning, and we felt like two little kids. And people kept calling all night. And by the way, this wasn't the Stanley Cup Finals yet. This is you guys are just meeting the Colorado
awesome.
Avalanche, and we were on till 6 o'clock in the morning, and honestly, we were looking at each other like, this was the coolest. It was awesome, and you guys, I hope you guys understand, especially for young guys like us. I think I can speak for you, Ken and Perry. What you guys did to bring hockey mainstream, to bring it really out. You guys will never know. Honestly, you don't. I mean, when you're a kid, people go, "What are you doing tonight?" "Oh, I'm watching hockey night." And can't hockey. Who watches hockey? The Edmonton Oilers and the New York Islanders are on. Dude, it's a beautiful. I want to watch hockey. Fast forward a little bit, everybody's watching.
Yeah.
So you guys did that. I mean, your team did that, and that's that was right. I don't know why that one really sticks out to me.
It's funny to look back to see how that is, but the evolution of hockey town. But the thing to me, and it doesn't matter. I alluded on before about being in the rink, but it's the same thing. Red Wing Nation, no matter where you're from, it's that pride, but you have this sort of enjoyment. We share everything we have or have accomplished because we remember going through the tough times, or remember, winning the cup. First time 42 years, 3 days later, guy you lose pretty much arguably your best player in Konstantinov. That, it's like he died. Thank goodness he didn't, which, by the way, I got to tell everybody is that's to this day. Still, Vladdy watching that movie, his daughter told me when he watches it, he's in his happy place. It's awesome. Sings We Are the Champions at the end of it. That's what it's all about. But that's the whole thing, because then when we talk about it now, because a lot of the stuff, things not only like that Sean, you and I always talked about is, dude, we always talk about you always talk Montreal, but the Edmonton Oilers, the old Islanders back in the day, the Trottiers, all that stuff.
What's amazing about the Red Wings and how good you guys were and everything, and Perry can relate to this because we grew up watching the Red Wings, and you too, Sean, like they were bad. And, every time playoffs would come around, it was just a given that they weren't going to be in, so now you got to watch Toronto and Boston. Now you got to watch Montreal and somebody else. And then all of a sudden, the Red Wings start getting in there on a pretty regular basis, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. You know what I mean? Now our home team is actually playing in some big games, and they're winning.
And they're winning.
And all of a sudden it's like it's amazing because you just appreciate it so more because we remember all the times that from game one, they were never in it, like game one of the season. You just know that they're going to end up with 60 points.
Isn't it funny how that goes? So then you start winning and actually win a playoff series, and then get your hopes up, and then go out in the first.
Isn't it crazy? Right?
If you look at the timeline, other wings, and you go from when it was 1980 or whatever up, and it's nuts. It's the resilience. It's almost, but that's what it is to be a Detroiter.
Remember John Brophy in this?
Yeah.
The choke, yeah.
To me, that, when Jacques brought them back in 87 and 88, that was so magical because, Ken, the Red Wings were so far off the map in this town. They really were. They were so far off the map. And, all of a sudden you win a couple playoff series and you're facing the mighty Edmonton Oilers. It was awesome. That was
two of those
so
games
much fun.
where they had a good team that year, and two of them, at home here went in overtime.
Yeah,
Lost
it was.
But I mean, they were some tough series.
Awesome.
I mean, that was a tough
Well,
series.
Ken would remember. I growing up in the being a teenager in the 70s and 20s and the 30s or in the 80s. Yeah, I know, man. So I went and saw the Wings in '79. I saw 2 of the playoff games against the Montreal Canadiens, and we actually won one, the first one, and then got smoked out by them. But growing up through the Dead Wing era, and then seeing the Wings in '85, '86 with that god awful record, I literally by that point I thought I'm never going to see the Wings win a playoff or a Stanley Cup final. You just didn't have any confidence in them. And 10 years later, next thing you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping with the Lions, because it's kind of the same situation to where, you're hoping that sooner or later they can get into some big games. They can get in some playoff games. Then they're going to start winning some games. And then the next thing you know, maybe they're in the Super Bowl. It's just like how it was.
You just got to
with the Red
start
Wings.
it. Get it started.
Exactly.
Get in the playoffs. Maybe win a game. Baby step it up. But again, it's like foundation. You got to do it right. And hopefully from Sean, I want everybody out there for Grind Time to know that my buddy Sean Baligian does the Lions work, says that Bob Quinn.
I really think so.
You do.
I really think so.
That means a lot to me.
I've never said it before in my life.
So get on board, and it's not going to be a quick fix. I think that's the whole thing. Is in sports we always want the quick fix.
Yep.
Ain't quick fixes around here because we want to do it right. And I want another 25-year playoff run for the Wings. That is legitimate to challenge every year, not just to waste the draft pick.
Name me one team that just overnight became the best team in the world. It doesn't happen.
No.
It just doesn't happen.
Vegas Knights.
One of the greatest stories, and I'm sure you guys all know this, but for the benefit of people out there that aren't aware of this, when the Oilers lost to the Islanders in '83, and Gretz went to go give congratulations afterwards, and Gretz walks in the locker room thinking that they're going to be partying, and he said he looks at everybody, they got ice bags on them. They're all sitting there groggy. Nobody's partying. He said at that moment, Mess and I looked at each other and we said, that's what it's about. And, the next year, obviously you know what happened, but I hear that story and it sends chills down your spine because it's like you guys had to endure 95 and 96. You don't want to relive it again.
And 93
and Nikolai Borishevsky and Jamie Baker.
I wasn't there, but it's all right.
But you know what I mean? You guys had to endure that. And the 95 series to me, that's the one that's it was over like that. And I'm not being a jerk when I say that.
No,
but it was like, what the hell? Stéphane Richer, Claude Lemieux, Scott Stevens just killed somebody. You know, that's what that series was, and it was over in the blink of an eye. And I remember people thought, okay, and especially after '96. Well, that's it. Now we're going to trade Stevie to Ottawa, and it's crazy how life works itself out like that, isn't it?
So I think Ken said it. It works itself out. It might not. What I've learned is it might not be on my time, but it's on his time.
Sooner or later, it all works out.
It does. All right. So first round, gentlemen, Mr. Ken Cal.
Thank you, man.
Mr. Sean Baligian for Perry Vellucci. Mr. Tim Krakowski. Again, Tuesday edition, Grind Time exclusive. This is your host, Darren McCarty. That'll be it. Grind Time out.
We could have stayed here till 5.